Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Ghost Rider, God, the true spirit of Vei. Engines Naruto x Alejandra Jones Marvel Comics. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Awakening Flame. The war had ended, yet peace eluded him. Naruto Uzumaki stood atop the Hokage monument, golden hair whipping in the autumn wind as he gazed over the recovering village of Konoha. 2 years since Kagaya's defeat. 2 years of rebuilding, of tentative alliances between once warring nations, of nightmares that wouldn't fade. And the burning, always the burning. He flexed his right hand, remembering the phantom sensation that had awakened him just before dawn, skin crackling like paper in flame, bones turning molten. No visible marks remained, yet the memory of pain lingered, more vivid than any genjutsu. You feel it too, don't you? Kurama's voice rumbled within him, uncharacteristically subdued. Naruto closed his eyes, descending into his mindscape. The 9 tails lounged in the vast chamber they now shared, 9 massive tails swishing thoughtfully through non-existent air. The fox's crimson eyes narrowed, studying his host with unusual intensity. Something's changing, Naruto acknowledged, approaching the massive entity who'd become more partner than prisoner. These dreams, they don't feel like dreams. Kurama's ears flattened against his skull. They're not dreams. They're memories. Memories. Of what? I've never. Not your memories. Older. Much older. The fox shifted, uncharacteristically restless. I've suspected since you mastered my chakra. But now I'm certain. The seal is weakening. The seal. But my father. Not that seal. Kurama's voice dropped to a rumble that seemed to vibrate through the foundations of Naruto's mind. The one that came before. The one even I was part of maintaining. Beyond the monument, storm clouds gathered over distant mountains, purple-black and heavy with promise. The air smelled of ozone and anticipation. Naruto felt a strange resonance with the brewing tempest, as if something in his blood recognized the chaotic energy building in the atmosphere. You should talk to the 6th, Kurama advised. Something approaches that even I cannot fully comprehend. The Hokage's office remained cluttered despite Kakashi's 3 years in the position. The silver-haired leader glanced up from a scroll as Naruto entered, his visible eye crinkling in greeting. Ah, Naruto. Just the person I needed to see. Naruto paused, momentarily derailed from his purpose. You were looking for me. Kakashi leaned back, gesturing to a stack of reports. Strange occurrences. Civilian reports of tears in the sky. Unusual chakra signatures detected by our sensor teams. Even the Hyuga clan has reported seeing disturbances. Disturbances in the fabric of reality itself, according to Hiashi. Kakashi's tone remained light, but tension lined his shoulders. Normally I'd dismiss such reports as post-war anxiety. But they're too consistent, too widespread. He fixed Naruto with a penetrating stare. And now you're here, looking troubled. Coincidence? The burning in Naruto's hand flared briefly. I've been having episodes. Dreams that don't feel like dreams. Sensations I can't explain. He hesitated. Kurama says they're memories, but not mine. He mentioned a seal, older than the one that contained him. Kakashi steepled his fingers. The 9 tails is concerned. He's uncertain. And Kurama is never uncertain. The Hokage rose, moving to the window. There's something else. Reports of strange chakra fluctuations in the ruins of Uzushiogakure. He turned back to face Naruto. Your mother's homeland. The coincidence is troubling. Lightning split the darkening sky, illuminating the office in harsh white light. For an instant, Naruto thought he saw something else reflected in the glass. Not his usual blue-eyed, whiskered face, but a fleshless skull wreathed in flames. The headache struck without warning, white-hot needles driving into his temples. Naruto gasped, doubling over as images flooded his mind. Chains of burning metal, a motorcycle wreathed in hellfire. A throne of bones overlooking a landscape of suffering, and eyes, countless eyes filled with the weight of judgment. Naruto. Kakashi's voice seemed to come from miles away. The pain subsided as quickly as it had arrived, leaving Naruto panting, one hand braced against the Hokage's desk. I'm okay, he managed, straightening slowly. But I need to go to Uzushiogakure. Tonight. Not alone, Kakashi countered. I'll assemble a team. No. The word emerged with unintended force, carrying an authority that neither man recognized. Naruto blinked, surprised by his own vehemence. I mean, this feels personal. Kakashi-sensei. Something tied to my heritage. Let me investigate first. The Hokage studied him for a long moment, then nodded reluctantly. 3 days. If I don't hear from you by then, I'm sending Anbu. Thunder rumbled overhead as Naruto gathered supplies in his apartment. Basic necessities, weapons, scrolls, preparation had become second nature after years of missions. Yet something compelled him to pack light, as if the journey ahead demanded he shed unnecessary burdens. His hand hovered over the framed photograph of Team 7. Sasuke wandered distant lands seeking redemption. Sakura immersed herself in medical research at the hospital. Their paths had diverged after the war, connected by bonds that stretched but never broke. They wouldn't understand this, Kurama observed. Not yet. Naruto nodded, leaving the photograph behind. The storm broke as he reached Konoha's gates. Rain lashed against his face, yet brought no chill. Instead, each dropple tea seemed to sizzle against his increasingly fever-hot skin. He took to the trees, chakra propelling him forward with practiced ease. The forest blurred around him, miles dissolving beneath his relentless pace. By midnight, he'd covered distance that should have taken a day. His body moved with preternatural stamina, consuming chakra at a fraction of the normal rate. The storm followed, lightning, illuminating his path through ancient forests that gradually gave way to coastal scrubland. Dawn found him staring across turbulent waters toward a distant archipelago, the remains of Uzushiogakure, the land of whirlpools. Ancestral home of the Uzumaki clan. Mist clung to the islands, unnatural and thick even for this region. Something waits for us there, Kurama growled. Something old. Naruto channeled chakra to his feet, stepping onto the churning sea. The waves calmed beneath his soles, responding to his presence as if recognizing something beyond the Jinchuriki they had grown accustomed to. Halfway across, the sky tore open. There was no other way to describe it. A vertical slash appeared in the empty air, edges rippling with crimson energy unlike any chakra Naruto had encountered. The tear widened, revealing glimpses of a different world. Metal structures, strange vehicles, a sky tinged with unfamiliar pollution. Through this impossible wound in reality tumbled a figure, trailing smoke and fire. The body, human, female, hit the ocean surface with explosive force, steam erupting where saltwater met supernatural heat. Naruto moved without thinking, diving beneath the waves. The water around the sinking form boiled, yet caused him no discomfort as he wrapped an arm around the unconscious woman's waist and kicked toward the surface. They broke through into the storm-dark morning. The dimensional tear already sealing itself closed like a healing wound. The woman in his arms remained limp but radiated heat like a banked furnace. Her features were striking, olive-skinned with sharp cheekbones. Dark hair cropped short against her skull. Strange markings adorned her exposed arms, symbols Naruto didn't recognize yet somehow understood were seals of a sort. Most distant, seative was the chain wrapped around her torso. Links of dark metal that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, occasionally flickering with suppressed flame. Get her to land, Kurama urged. Now, Naruto complied, racing across the water toward the nearest island. As he moved, the woman's eyes snapped open, amber irises that momentarily flashed with internal fire. Donde estoy? She gasped, then switched languages with visible effort. Who are you? What have you done? I'm helping you, Naruto answered, maintaining his pace. You fell through something into our world. Put me down, she demanded, struggling weakly. You don't understand what I am. Probably not, Naruto agreed, feeling unexpected heat rising beneath his own skin in response to her proximity. But I'm starting to think you might understand what I am. Her eyes widened, focusing properly on his face for the first time. That's impossible. You're not. You can't be. She fell silent as they reached the rocky shore of the nearest island. Naruto set her gently on a flat stone, then stepped back, giving her space. The woman rose unsteadily, chain links clinking as she moved. She studied her surroundings, with wary precision before returning her attention to Naruto. My name is Alejandra Jones, she said finally. And either I've completely lost my mind, or you're carrying the essence of a spirit of vengeance. The name awakened something deep within Naruto, something that resonated with the burning sensation that had plagued him for months. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I'm the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, but lately, there's been something else. Alejandra's expression shifted from suspicion to calculation. A host, then, but not like any ghost rider I've encountered. She reached toward him, hesitated, then continued the gesture. Her fingertips brushed his cheek, tracing the whisker marks that had defined his appearance since birth. The contact ignited a cascade of visions in both of them. Naruto saw sprawling cities of metal and glass, vehicles belching smoke, crowds of humanity unlike any in the shinobi nations. He saw Alejandra fighting demons with chains wreathed in hellfire, a motorcycle transforming beneath her. Her face becoming a burning skull as she delivered judgment to the wicked. Alejandra gasped, overwhelmed by images of ninja warfare, tailed beasts of immense chakra, a moon goddess sealed away. And beneath it all, a presence far more ancient than the nine tails, an entity of judgment that had been fragmented and hidden across dimensions. They broke contact simultaneously, staggering backward. Impossible, Alejandra whispered. You're not just hosting a spirit of vengeance. You're containing the original, the first, the true god of vengeance. Thunder cracked overhead as Naruto absorbed her words. I don't understand. I've been the nine tails Jinchuriki since birth. My father sealed Kurama inside me to protect the village. Your nine tails is powerful, yes, Alejandra acknowledged. But it's just a fragment, a mask, a seal within a seal. She gestured to herself. Where I come from, the power I carry, what we call the Ghost Rider, is a spirit of vengeance created by an entity named Mephisto. But the visions, they showed something else. Something that came before. Kurama's presence stirred within Naruto. She speaks truth, Naruto. I've suspected since the war's end. The power you contain, I am merely its jailer. The nine Biju were created as fragments of the 10 tails, yes, but the 10 tails itself was merely a vessel, a prison for something far more cosmic. Something that predates even the Sage of Six Paths. The sky darkened further, clouds spiraling unnaturally over the island. Alejandra's chain unwound from her torso, one end gripped in her fist as it began to glow with smoldering embers. We're not alone, she warned, scanning the rocky terrain. Naruto sensed it too, a presence neither human nor Biju, slithering through reality like oil through water. What is it? A hunter, Alejandra spat. They must have followed me through the The air several yards away rippled, then parted. The creature that emerged resembled a man only in the vaguest outline, elongated limbs connected to a torso covered in chitinous plates, a face featuring too many eyes arranged in asymmetrical patterns. It moved with unsettling fluidity, body bending at impossible angles. Found you, little rider, it chittered, voice grating like metal on stone. 2 worlds to hunt now. 2 vessels to claim. Alejandra's chain erupted in hellfire. Orange-red flames dancing along the links. Stand back, she warned Naruto. This thing feeds on souls. But Naruto couldn't retreat. Something primal surged within him. Not Kurama's chakra, but something deeper, older. Awakened by Alejandra's presence and the creature's wrongness. Judgment, he whispered, the word emerging unbidden. The burning sensation that had haunted his dreams exploded through every cell. Naruto fell to his knees as liquid fire replaced blood in his veins. His skin blackened, then cracked like cooling lava, revealing molten light beneath. The transformation wasn't painful, merely inevitable. Alejandra watched in astonishment as Naruto's human form gave way to something transcendent. Unlike her own transformation into the Ghost Rider, with its flaming skull and leather attire, Naruto's metamorphosis produced something more primal, more complete. His skull remained, wreathed in flames that burned white gold rather than orange-red, but ribbons of fiery script, part seal, part ancient language, wrapped around bleached bone. 9 chains of chakra-infused fire emerged from his back, each tipped with a hooked blade reminiscent of the Magatama beads. His clothing transformed into flowing robes of midnight and crimson, adorned with patterns that hurt the eyes to follow directly. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of eons. Your judgment is at hand. The creature faltered, multiple eyes widening in recognition and fear. Impossible. You were fragmented, sealed away across realities. The seals weaken. The fragments call to one another. Naruto, or the entity he had become, raised a hand wreathed in flames that burned without consuming. Your sins burn within you, devourer of innocence. Face the weight of your judgment. The being that was Naruto moved with impossible speed, crossing the distance between them in less time than it took Alejandra to blink. One flaming hand grasped the creature's face, fingers sinking into otherworldly flesh. Look into my eyes and know your sins. Unlike the penance stare of Alejandra's world, this was something more fundamental. The creature's body began to glow from within, light pouring from its mouth and eye sockets as millennia of devoured souls found release. It thrashed and shrieked, clawed hands scrabbling uselessly against Naruto's transformed body. Mercy! It finally screamed, voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. Mercy is not mine to give. The flames intensified, but justice is mine to deliver. The creature collapsed into ash, scattered by winds that seemed to respond directly to the transformed Naruto's will. Only then did he turn to face Alejandra, fiery eye sockets regarding her with ancient recognition. Alejandra Jones, Ghost Rider, fragment of my essence. He extended a hand wreathed in flame. You have carried your burden well. She approached cautiously, her own chain still flickering with hellfire. What are you, really? I am vengeance incarnate. Justice given form. The first flame of judgment that burned before time was measured. The flames surrounding his skull shifted, forming patterns reminiscent of Naruto's whisker marks. I was fragmented, scattered across dimensions when my judgment threatened those with power. The being you know as Mephisto holds but a splinter of my essence, corrupted to his purpose. And Naruto, the boy whose body you're wearing. The flaming figure tilted its head, consideration evident despite the lack of facial features. Naruto Uzumaki is my true vessel, born of a bloodline engineered across generations to contain my essence. The nine-tailed fox was merely the final seal, the last guardian before my awakening. Within the transformed body, Naruto listened and observed, surprisingly unafraid. Unlike Kurama's early attempts to seize control, this entity, this spirit of vengeance, made no effort to supplant his consciousness. Rather, it seemed to unfold around him, revealing aspects of himself he'd never recognized. I need to speak, Naruto asserted internally, expecting resistance. Instead, the entity receded slightly, allowing Naruto's consciousness to move forward. The transformation remained, but the voice that emerged next carried Naruto's distinctive timbre beneath the supernatural resonance. I'm still here, Alejandra. It's strange, like discovering a room in your house that was always there but somehow hidden. He flexed fingers that remained skeletal yet moved with perfect responsiveness. I can feel everything I feel. The power, the purpose, it doesn't feel foreign. It feels like remembering something I always knew. Alejandra relaxed slightly, her own chain's flames subsiding. That's not how it works for most of us. The rider takes over, uses our body. We're passengers, not partners. Because your spirits of vengeance are fragments, corrupted and controlled by entities like Mephisto, Naruto explained, the knowledge flowing from the Ansi. And consciousness now integrated with his own. This is different. The Uzumaki clan, my mother's people, they weren't just seal masters by coincidence. They were custodians, guardians of the original seal. He gestured toward the interior of the island, where ruins of Uzushiogakure presumably lay. The answers we need are there. About why the dimensional barriers are weakening. About why we've been brought together now. Alejandra hesitated, then nodded. Lead the way, then. But I have questions, hundreds of them. So do I. Naruto turned toward the island's center, flames trailing from his transformed body like a cloak. Starting with how to turn back to human form. As if responding to his thought, the flames receded, bones reknitting into flesh, until Naruto stood before her in his human appearance once more. Only his eyes retained a hint of the transformation, blue irises now ringed with a circle of gold fire. That's convenient, Alejandra remarked dryly. She concentrated briefly, and her own supernatural aspects faded, leaving her appearing fully human, a woman perhaps a few years older than Naruto, dressed in fitted black clothing suitable for combat, the chain now dormant around her waist like a belt. They traversed the rocky terrain in silence for several minutes, each processing the implications of what had transpired. The storm above had calmed somewhat, Huff lightning still occasionally illuminated the path ahead. In my world, Alejandra finally said, the Ghost Rider is a spirit of vengeance bound to human hosts through a contract with Mephisto, a powerful demon lord. The rider punishes the wicked, collects corrupt souls. She glanced sideways at Naruto. But there have always been inconsistencies, aspects of the power that didn't align with Mephisto's known abilities. Because he didn't create it, Naruto replied, knowledge continuing to unfold within him like a scroll being gradually unrolled. He captured a fragment of the original SP, Irid of Vengeance, what I apparently contain, and corrupted it to his purpose. They crested a hill, and the ruins of Uzushiogakure spread before them, crumbling structures of red stone, partially reclaimed by vegetation. Spiral patterns still visible on broken walls and fallen columns. My mother was from here, Naruto said softly. The Uzumaki clan was renowned for sealing techniques. They were nearly wiped out decades ago. I always thought it was because other nations feared their power, but now. They were guardians, Alejandra finished. Protecting a secret bigger than any single world. They descended into the ruins. Drawn to a structure more intact than the others, a temple complex built into the side of a cliff, its entrance adorned with stone spirals that matched the symbol Naruto wore on his jacket. Inside, their footsteps echoed on ancient flagstones. The air hung heavy with salt and secrets. Corridors led deeper into the cliff face, illuminated by an unexpected source. Seals carved into the walls that still glowed with faint chakra, activated by their presence. The seals recognize us, Naruto realized. Both of us. The passage opened into a vast circular chamber dominated by an immense stone table. Upon its surface was carved an intricate diagram, a spiral pattern that expanded outward, connecting to 9 smaller spirals arranged in a circle. At the center stood a stone pedestal supporting a crystal sphere that pulsed with inner light. This is why I was drawn here, Naruto breathed. This is where it all began. Alejandra approached the table cautiously. These markings, some of them match the ones that appear when I transform. They're the original sealing script, Naruto explained, knowledge continuing to surface from the ancient consciousness now intertwined with his own. The language of binding that exists in all dimensions. He placed his hand on the crystal sphere. It flared to life, projecting images into the air above the table, constellations, dimensions. Realities flowing like rivers alongside one another. A voice emerged from the light, speaking an ancient language that Naruto somehow understood, and so did Alejandra, her eyes widening in recognition. Children of vengeance, the voice intoned. Fragments reunited. The time of awakening approaches. The projection shifted, showing a humanoid figure of pure light, Grad. You ally fragmenting into multiple shards that scattered across different dimensional planes. At the dawn of consciousness, I was born, the embodiment of justice, the spirit of righteous vengeance. I maintained balance across realities until those who feared true judgment conspired to shatter my essence. The image changed again, displaying figures in Uzumaki clan robes performing a massive sealing ritual around a being of fire and judgment. The Uzumaki were chosen as my guardians, tasked with preserving my primary essence until the time of reunification. They created the sealed beings UKN, Ao as the tailed beasts to disguise my power, fragmenting it further to maintain the deception. Another shift showed dimensions beginning to bleed into one another, barriers thinning. Now the seals weaken. The fragments call to one another across dimensional barriers. Those who first imprisoned me sense my awakening and move to prevent it. A final image appeared, a map of sorts, showing nexus points where dimensions connected. One pulsing brighter than the others. Find the fragments. Restore what was sundered. The balance of all worlds depends upon the return of true judgment. The projection faded, leaving them in the dim light of the chamber. Alejandra broke the silence. That complicates things. Naruto withdrew his hand from the crystal, mind racing. My entire life, Eve. Writhing, I thought I knew about the 9 tails, about my parents' sacrifice. It was part of something vaster. Welcome to Cosmic Revelations, Alejandra said with grim humor. They're never simple and rarely comfortable. She studied the map that had briefly appeared. That nexus point. I recognized it. It's in my world, a place called Devil's Backbone in Mexico. Then that's where we need to go next, Naruto stated with characteristic determination. But first, I need to return to Konoha. There are people I need to talk to, and I can't just disappear between dimensions without explanation. Alejandra considered this, then nodded reluctantly. Fine. But we don't have much time. Those barriers between worlds are weakening for a reason, and that creature that followed me won't be the last. They exited the temple into fading daylight, the storm having moved on during their time underground. Naruto stared across the water toward the mainland, thoughts churning with revelations and questions. How do we even travel between dimensions? He wondered aloud. Alejandra's chain unwound from her waist, slithering into her hand of its own accord. The same way I arrived, I suspect. He spirit of vengeance can create tears in reality. If you're housing the original, you should have that ability and more. I don't exactly have an instruction manual for cosmic godhood, Naruto retorted, then paused. Actually, maybe I do. He closed his eyes, reaching inward to the presence that had always been there, hidden beneath Kurama's more obvious power. How do we move between worlds? The answer came not in words but in knowledge, a technique similar to the space-time ninjutsu he'd encountered, but operating on a fundamental level of reality rather than merely bending space within a single dimension. Got it, he said, opening eyes that briefly flashed with inner fire. We can return to Konoha instantly. Alejandra raised an eyebrow. Quick study. You have no idea. Naruto grinned, some of his usual personality asserting itself through the weight of cosmic revelation. He extended a hand. You might want to hold on. First attempts at new techniques can be interesting. She took his offered hand with surprising trust. If you scatter my molecules across dimensions, I'm coming back to haunt you. Fair enough. Naruto focused on the technique revealed by his inner knowledge. Unlike the Hiraishin used by his father, which required pre-placed markers, this method involved perceiving the fabric of reality itself, finding the natural seams between moments and locations, and simply stepping through. The air around them rippled, then parted like a curtain. Through the opening, Konoha was visible, specifically, the Hokage monument where Naruto had stood that morning. They stepped through together, the dimensional doorway ceiling closed behind them with a sound like distant thunder. Konoha spread before them, bathed in the golden light of approaching sunset. Unaware of the cosmic revelations occurring above its streets. Welcome to the Hidden Leaf Village, Naruto said, watching Alejandra take in the sight with undisguised fascination. It's not what I expected, she admitted. More peaceful than the world I come from. It wasn't always, Naruto replied, memories of war and pain briefly surfacing. We've earned this peace, fought and died for it. Movement at the base of the monument caught his attention, Anbu operatives, moving with purpose toward their position. News of their arrival had apparently preceded them. Looks like our welcome committee, Naruto noted. Kakashi-sensei doesn't miss much. Alejandra tensed, her chain shifting subtly around her waist. Are they a threat? No, Naruto assured her, though uncertainty lingered. How would Konoha respond to dimensional travelers and revelations of cosmic entities? They're allies. But explaining us, is going to be complicated. Then perhaps a demonstration is in order, Alejandra suggested, a dangerous glint in her amber eyes. Before Naruto could respond, she stepped forward to the monument's edge, visible to those below. With fluid grace, she raced her transformation, flesh giving way to bone, skin to flame, human form to vengeful spirit. The Ghost Rider stood revealed in the fading daylight, chain whirling in a circle of hellfire. Chaos erupted below as civilians scattered and shinobi moved into defensive positions. Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair. Well, that's one approach, he muttered. He stepped forward to join her at the edge, feeling the ancient power stirring within him again. This time, the transformation came easier, more controlled. Flesh blackened and cracked, revealing the spirit of vengeance in all its terrible glory. 9 chains of white gold fire extended from his back, spreading like wings against the darkening sky. People of Konoha, his voice thundered across the village, carrying to every corner. Do not fear. I am Naruto Uzumaki, transformed but not lost. A new chapter in our history begins this day. Below, he could see familiar faces frozen in shock, Kakashi emerging from the Hokage Tower. Sakura staring up from the hospital grounds, Shikamaru calculating possibilities from a rooftop position. Beside him, Alejandra's flaming skull turned, somehow managing to convey amusement despite its fixed features. Subtlety is overrated, Naruto replied, the spirit's voice carrying a hint of his characteristic boldness. Besides, we're going to need allies. Together, EY stood framed against the twilight sky, the Ghost Rider and the God of Vengeance, fragments of cosmic justice reunited across dimensions, their flames casting long shadows over a world unprepared for what was coming. The hunt for the scattered fragments of vengeance had begun. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Chains Across Worlds. Flames cascaded down the Hokage Monument, a spectacle of supernatural ire that consumed nothing yet changed everything. Citizens who had survived wars, invasions, and the resurrection of an ancient goddess now stood transfixed by something entirely beyond their understanding. Their village hero transformed into a being of divine judgment, accompanied by a stranger who burned with similar purpose. Kakashi Hatake, 6th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf, maintained his characteristic outward calm while his mind raced through strategic calculations. 20 Anbu operatives had already taken position. Sensory-type ninja monitored chakra fluctuations that defied classification. Medical teams stood ready, though what injuries they might treat remained unclear. Hold positions, he ordered through his communication device. No offensive action. 20 years of shinobi experience had taught Kakashi the wisdom of gathering information before committing to battle. Beyond that practical consideration lay something more personal. The flaming entity had claimed to be Naruto Uzumaki, his former student and the village's greatest hero. If true, attacking would be both tactically unsound and morally reprehensible. If false, provoking a being of such obvious power would be catastrophic. The twin figures of flame descended from the monument with uncanny grace, touching down in the village square with barely a whisper of sound. The taller one, Naruto, if his claim was to be believed, had transformed since his dramatic announcement. The skull remained wreathed in white gold fire, but now bore markings reminiscent of the Nine Tails' influence. 9 chains of living flame. Extended from his back like spectral tails, while his clothing had reshaped into a flowing coat of midnight black emblazoned with spiral patterns that shifted as if alive. The second figure was smaller, feminine in form despite the fleshless skull and burning eye sockets. Her flames burned orange-red rather than white gold, and a single chain of supernatural metal whirled around her form in constant, fluid motion. Kakashi stepped forward alone, hands deliberately visible at his sides. Naruto? He asked, voice betraying no uncertainty. The taller figure inclined its burning skull. Yes and no, Kakashi-sensei. The voice carried Naruto's distinctive timbre beneath layers of ancient power. I am Naruto, but I am also something more, something that has always been part of me, though I never knew it. With visible effort, the flames receded, bone and fire giving way to familiar flesh. Within moments, Naruto stood before them, blue eyes now ringed with gold, whisker marks more pronounced against sun-tanned skin. It's a long story, he added, rubbing the back of his neck in a characteristic gesture that did more to convince Kakashi of his identity than any proclamation could have. The second figure remained transformed, flaming skull surveying the gathering crowd with predatory alertness. Your friend seems reluctant to show herself, Kakashi observed mildly. Naruto glanced at his companion. Alejandra is cautious by nature. Can't really blame her, considering the welcome committee. He gestured to the Anbu operatives visible on surrounding rooftops. Standard protocol for unexpected visitors. Kakashi replied, especially those who arrive via spontaneous combustion. A sound emerged from the flaming skull beside Naruto, something between a snort and a laugh. Then, with fluid grace, fire receded to reveal an olive-skinned woman with sharp features and watchful amber eyes. I've had worse receptions, she remarked in accented Japanese. At least no one's tried to exorcise me. Yet, Kakashi's visible eye crinkled. The day is young. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere less public. Within minutes, they were sequestered in the Hokage's office. Shikamaru Nara had joined them, his normally bored expression replaced by intense focus as he studied their visitors. Shizune stood by the door, medical expertise at the ready should anything unexpected occur, beyond the already unexpected situation of flaming skeletal visitors. Start from the beginning, Kakashi suggested, leaning against his desk rather than sitting behind it, a deliberate choice to maintain a less formal atmosphere. Naruto exchanged glances with Alejandra, who offered a shrug that clearly communicated, "Your world, your story." "I went to Uzushiogakure as planned," Naruto began. "Found more than I expected." He detailed the encounter with Alejandra, their shared transformation, and the revelations beneath the ancient Uzumaki temple. As he spoke, Shikamaru's expression shifted from skepticism to calculation. "So you're claiming that the 9 tails, all the tailed beasts, were created as a cover for this spirit of vengeance?" "Not exactly created," Naruto clarified. "More like repurposed. The Sage of 6 Paths split the 10 tails into 9 beings, but the 10 tails itself was already a seal, a container for something older." "The true spirit of vengeance," Alejandra interjected. "A cosmic entity that judges sin across all dimensions. In my world, fragments of this power manifest as what we call Ghost Riders," she gestured to herself, "but they're corrupted. Controlled by demons like Mephisto. And these dimensional rifts appearing throughout the shinobi nations." Kakashi prompted. "The barriers between worlds are weakening," Naruto explained. "The fragments of the spirit are calling to each other across dimensions, trying to reunite." "Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered, his signature assessment somehow inadequate for cosmic disturbances. "You have no idea," Alejandra agreed grimly. "Where I come from, these rifts are probably causing chaos too. And entities from both our worlds might cross over, not all of them friendly." Kakashi straightened. "Then we need to locate and secure these rifts immediately. Shikamaru, organize reconnaissance teams." "Wait," Naruto interrupted. "These aren't conventional threats. Regular shinobi. I won't be equipped to handle what might come through." He gestured between himself and Alejandra. "We need to lead this investigation ourselves." "With appropriate backup," Kakashi countered, not quite making it a question. Naruto nodded, accepting the compromise. "Small teams. People I trust." "There's something else," Alejandra said, drawing all eyes. The temple map showed a major nexus point. "NT in my world, a place called Devil's Backbone in Mexico. Whatever's causing these rifts, the source might be there. Which means we'll eventually need to cross dimensions ourselves," Naruto added. Silence fell as the implications settled over the room. Kakashi exchanged glances with Shikamaru, centuries of shinobi paranoia warring against trust in Naruto's judgment. One step at a time, the Hokage finally decided. "Secure the local rifts first. Then we'll discuss interdimensional travel." Outside the Hokage Tower, Konoha buzzed with rumors and speculation. News of Naruto's transformatio had spread faster than any official statement could hope to contain. Citizens gathered in small groups, conversations hushed as theories passed from person to person, growing more outlandish with each retelling. Sakura Haruno intercepted Naruto and Alejandra as they exited the building, her green eyes sharp with concern and curiosity. 12 hours, she said without preamble. "You were gone 12 hours and somehow managed to become a supernatural entity from another dimension." Naruto winced. "When you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous." "It is ridiculous," Sakura agreed, then surprised him by pulling him into a fierce hug. "And terrifying. And exactly the sort of thing that would happen to you." She released him, turning her analytical gaze to Alejandra. "I'm Sakura Haruno, ethical ninja and unfortunate keeper of this one's health records." Alejandra's lips quirked. "Alejandra Jones, Ghost Rider and interdimensional traveler." She extended a hand, which Sakura clasped firmly. "Your physiological markers are fascinating," Sakura observed, not releasing Alejandra's hand. "Elevated body temperature, unusual chakra circulation, or something like chakra, but not quite, and your cellular structure appears to be in constant flux." Alejandra raised an eyebrow, extracting her hand. "Are you scanning me, medical ninja?" Sakura reminded her. "It's automatic." She returned her attention to Naruto. "And your chakra signature has completely transformed. The 9 tails energy is still present, but it's been realigned somehow." Naruto nodded. "Kurama's still here, but we've both become part of something bigger." He hesitated, then asked the question that had been troubling him since his return. "Is everyone afraid of me now?" Sakura's expression softened. "They're uncertain, which is natural, but you've earned this village's trust 1,000 times over. That doesn't disappear because you've grown flaming chains and a new cosmic identity." "Some might disagree," Alejandra murmured. nodding toward a cluster of civilians who had pointedly moved away as they approached. Some always disagree, Sakura dismissed. Remember how they treated Naruto as a child. People fear what they don't understand. Naruto flinched at the reminder of his isolated childhood. And now I'm even less understandable. But more respected, Sakura countered. Your sessions during the war earned you that much. Give them time. They continued through the village toward Naruto's apartment, aware of eyes following their progress. The whispers were not the venomous hisses of Naruto's childhood, but they carried a new wariness that stung nonetheless. Alejandra observed the interactions with narrowed eyes. Your people are remarkably resilient. In my world, supernatural manifestations typically cause mass panic. We've seen our share of the impossible, Naruto replied. Giant foxes attacking the village, the moon nearly falling from the sky, the dead returning to life during the war. Perspective helps. Still, flaming skulls tend to leave an impression. They reached Naruto's apartment without incident. The modest space reflected its owner's straightforward nature, functional furnishings, minimal decoration save for a few framed photographs, and a surprising lack of clutter for a young man living alone. It's not much, Naruto acknowledged, suddenly self-conscious as Alejandra surveyed his living space. But it's home. It's peaceful, she replied, her tone suggesting this was a novel concept. She moved to the window, looking out over the village with an expression Naruto couldn't quite interpret. My world. It's noisier. More crowded. Less connected to nature. You sound like you don't miss it, Naruto observed, preparing tea with automatic movements. Alejandra's shoulders tensed slightly. Parts of it? No. The Ghost Rider doesn't exactly lead to a normal life. She turned from the window. But there are people there. Complications, responsibilities. I understand responsibility, Naruto said, setting 2 cups on the small table. The spirit of vengeance isn't my first burden. She accepted the offered tea with surprising grace. No, you were a Jinchuriki, housing the 9-tailed fox since birth. Naruto nodded. My father sealed Kurama inside me the day I was born. He died doing it, along with my mother. For years, I didn't know why I was hated by the village, why I was alone. Yet you defend them, Alejandra noted. Protect them. They're my precious people, Naruto replied simply. All of them, even the ones who hated me. Alejandra studied him over the rim of her cup. That's unusual. The Ghost Rider usually attracts those with a strong desire for vengeance. People who've been wronged and want retribution. Maybe that's why the original spirit chose the Uzumaki clan as guardians, Naruto suggested. We tend toward forgiveness rather than vengeance, despite our legendary tempers. A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Naruto sensed the familiar chakra signature and smiled. Hinata, he called. Come in. The door opened to reveal Hinata Hyuga, her pale eyes wide. Ning slightly at the sight of Alejandra but otherwise maintaining her characteristic composure. Naruto-kun, she greeted softly. I heard what happened. I wanted to see if you were all right. I'm fine, he assured her, gesturing for her to join them. Hinata, this is Alejandra Jones. She's like me. Sort of. From another dimension. It's a pleasure to meet you, Hinata said with a formal bow. Thank you for helping Naruto-kun. Alejandra returned the bow somewhat awkwardly. He helped me as much as I helped him. That's his way, Hinata replied with gentle certainty. Yuto felt a surge of gratitude for Hinata's unquestioning acceptance. Their relationship had evolved in unexpected ways after the war. Her confession during Pain's attack had led to several tentative dates. But mutual agreement that their paths were taking different directions. She had become one of his most steadfast supporters and trusted friends. The Hyuga compound has been in chaos since the rifts appeared, Hinata reported. Accepting tea from Naruto, our Byakugan can see the tears in reality, but looking directly at them causes pain. Father has half the clan monitoring the village perimeter. Any new rifts in the last few hours? Naruto asked. 2, Hinata confirmed. One in the eastern forest, another near the hot springs. Both small, but growing. Teams have been dispatched to secure the areas. Alejandra set down her cup. We should investigate these rifts ourselves. If anything's come through, Naruto nodded. We will. But first, he turned to Hinata. What's the village really saying? About me, About this transformation, Hinata didn't hesitate. They're uncertain, but not afraid, not of you, specifically. The circumstances concern them. Her pale eyes, incapable of deception, held his gaze steadily. The elders are meeting to discuss implications. Some Jonin have expressed concerns about security. But most remember what you've done for the village. They're waiting to follow your lead. No pressure, Naruto muttered. Great power, great responsibility, Alejandra interjected. Universal constant across dimensions, apparently. Their planning session was interrupted by a sudden, sharp pain that caused both Naruto and Alejandra to flinch simultaneously. The sensation, like ice and fire racing through their veins, lasted only seconds but left them both gasping. What was that? Hinata asked. Byakugan activating instinctively. Something came through. Alejandra growled, her eyes flickering momentarily within her flame. Something powerful. Naruto closed his eyes, sensing outward with abilities that blended his shinobi training with his newfound cosmic awareness. The village spread before his perception like a living map, chakra signatures LSING with familiar rhythms, except for a cold void that had appeared near the eastern forest rift. Not powerful, he corrected grimly. Empty, like a hole punched through reality. Before Hinata could respond, an Anbu operative appeared in a swirl of leaves at the apartment window. Hokage-sama requests your immediate presence, the masked figure announced. The eastern forest situation has evolved. The eastern forest burned with unnatural fire, green-black flames that consumed chakra rather than matter. Trees stood untouched while the very energy of the forest drained away, creating an expanding dead zone where nothing moved, nothing grew, nothing lived. At the center of this anomaly hovered a dimensional rift twice the size of those previously reported, its edges rippling with malevolent purpose. 4 Jonin lay unconscious or worse at the perimeter, their chakra networks visibly damaged even to non-Hyuga observers. Kakashi, Sakura, and Shikamaru had arrived minutes before Naruto's group, establishing a containment perimeter while assessing the situation. It appeared 30 minutes ago, Kakashi reported as Naruto, Alejandra, and Hinata approached. Expanded rapidly. When the reconnaissance team approached, it reacted. Defensively or offensively? Alejandra asked, eyes fixed on the tear in reality. Deliberately, Shikamaru answered. It waited until they were within range. Then pulsed with some kind of anti-chakra energy. Targeted, not automatic. Naruto felt Kurama stir within him, the fox's consciousness pushing forward with unusual urgency. This isn't natural, the 9 tails growled internally. Something is manipulating the dimensional barriers intentionally. Can you sense what? Naruto asked silently. No, but it feels familiar. Like an echo of something I've encountered before. Alejandra's chain had unwound from her waist, hovering near her right hand without her apparent conscious direction. Something's coming through, she warned, body tensing in anticipation. The rift's center darkened, then bulged outward as if something were pressing against a membrane from the other side. With a sound like tearing silk, the barrier ruptured, and a figure stepped through into the shinobi world. It appeared human at first glance, tall, elegantly proportioned, clothed in an impeccable charcoal suit that seemed out of place yet oddly timeless. Only as it turned to survey its surroundings did the wrongness become apparent. Eyes like polished obsidian, reflecting nothing, skin so perfect it resembled a wax sculpture, movements too precise, too calculated for natural biology. Ah, it said, voice melodious yet hollow. How fascinating. Not the world I was aiming for, but potentially more valuable. Its gaze fixed on Naruto. Unnatural eyes narrowing with recognition and calculation. The missing fragment, it murmured. How convenient. Alejandra stepped forward, chain erupting in hellfire. Emissary, she spat, the word laden with contempt. Mephisto sent his errand boy. The entity's perfect features arranged themselves in an approximation of a smile. Alejandra Jones, the rebellious rider, my master will be pleased to recover you. It tilted its head, studying Naruto with renewed interest. Though I suspect he will be far more interested in your new acquaintance. You know me, Naruto demanded, feeling the spirit of vengeance stir within him. Eager for release. No you. No. The emissary adjusted immaculate cuffs with practiced elegance. But I recognize what you contain. A power that predates my master's ascension. A power he has, invested considerable effort in fragmenting and controlling. Kakashi signaled subtly to the Anbu operatives positioned in the surrounding trees, but before they could move, the emissary flicked one hand dismissively. Invisible force rippled outward, freezing the shinobi in place with effortless power. Please, it chided. This conversation doesn't concern lesser beings. Alejandra's chain lashed forward with blinding speed, wreathed in vengeful fire. The emissary caught it bare-handed, supernatural flames parting around his fingers without effect. Predictable, he sighed. My master created your power, child. Did you think it would harm his direct representative? He didn't create anything, Naruto growled, feeling heat building beneath his skin. As the spirit of vengeance responded to the threat, he stole fragments of something older, something original. The emissary's perfect composure faltered momentarily. You know more than you should. Its gaze intensified, boring into Naruto with predatory focus. Yes, I see it now. Not merely a fragment, but the source itself. Fascinating. Without warning, it moved, crossing the distance bet. Weaned them faster than even trained shinobi eyes could follow. One immaculate hand closed around Naruto's throat, lifting him effortlessly. My master will reward me immensely for bringing you to him, the emissary purred. The contact triggered Naruto's transformation. Flesh blackened and cracked, revealing molten light beneath as the spirit of vengeance emerged in full glory. 9 chains of white gold fire erupted from his back, wrapping around the emissary's arm and body with serpentine precision. Your master holds no dominion over me, the transformed Naruto thundered, voice resonating with ancient power. The emissary's perfect features contorted with unexpected pain as the chains tightened, white gold flames burning where they touched its immaculate suit. Impossible, it hissed. That power cannot harm me. You face not a fragment but the source, Naruto replied, flaming eye sockets blazing with intensifying light. Your master stole shards of my essence. The original flame burns beyond his corruption. With visible effort, the emissary tore free of the burning chains, its perfect appearance now marred by scorch marks that refused to heal. It retreated several steps, assessing the situation with cold calculation. This complicates matters, it acknowledged. My master will want to know of this development. Alejandra had used the distraction to complete her own transformation. The Ghost Rider now standing ready, chain whirling in deadly arcs. You're not reporting anything to anyone, she growled, voice distorted by her flaming skull. The emissary's damaged smile revealed too many teeth. Too perfectly aligned. I've accomplished what I came for. Knowledge is its own victory. It gestured toward the rift behind it. Until we meet again, my master sends his regards. And his claim on what is rightfully his. Before either transformed being could respond, the emissary stepped backward into the rift, which sealed itself with a sound like thunder. Unnatural green-black flames extinguished instantly, leaving only scorched earth and unconscious shinobi as evidence of the encounter. Naruto allowed his transformation to recede, flesh reforming over cosmic fire with practiced ease. Beside him, Alejandra remained in her Ghost Rider form for several moments longer before reverting to human appearance. That was an emissary of Mephisto, she explained as Kakashi and the others approached, freed from their supernatural paralysis. A direct extension of his will, created to act in realms where he can't personally appear. And this Mephisto is, Shikamaru prompted, helping a dazed Anbu operative to her feet. A demon lord, Alejandra replied grimly. One of the most powerful entities in my world. He's the one who corrupted fragments of the original spirit of vengeance to create the Ghost Riders. And now he knows about Naruto, Kakashi concluded, visible eye narrowed in thought. Naruto nodded, the implications settling heavily over him. He'll come for me, or try to. Let him try, Kurama growled internally, the fox's ancient pride bristling at the threat. Sakura had moved to attend the injured shinobi, green healing chakra flowing from her hands. These chakra networks are severely damaged, she reported. It's like their energy was partially extracted. Soul energy, Alejandra explained. Emissaries feed on it, not enough to kill usually, but enough to weaken and traumatize. Further discussion was interrupted by the arrival of a newcomer, a young woman in traditional shrine maiden attire, modified for ease of movement. She approached from the direction of the village, steps confident despite the destruction surrounding them. Uzumaki Naruto, she called, voice clear and formal. I've come from the Fire Temple at the Hokage's request. Kakashi inclined his head in acknowledgement. Mitsuko Kaneko, thank you for responding so quickly. The shrine maiden bowed respectfully, dark hair falling forward in a silken curtain before she straightened. Her eyes, an unusual shade of violet, surveyed the scene with professional assessment before settling on Naruto with unmistakable intensity. You've awakened it, she stated without preamble. The divine flame. Naruto blinked, surprised by her directness. You know about the spirit of vengeance. The Fire Temple preserves many ancient records, Mitsuko replied, including those rescued from Uzushiogakure before its fall. We've been monitoring cosmic imbalances since the war ended. Her gaze shifted to Alejandra. Though interdimensional visitors are unexpected. Alejandra crossed her arms defensively. I didn't exactly plan a vacation to another reality. A faint smile crossed Mitsuko's features. Few journeys of cosmic significance happen by choice. She returned her attention to the scorched clearing. This rift has been neutralized, but others are forming. I can sense 3 more within Fire Country alone. How? Shikamaru asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. The same way I sensed him, Mitsuko answered, nodding toward Naruto. My bloodline specializes in perceiving cosmic energy, the forces that exist beyond chakra. Convenient, Alejandra muttered, suspicion evident. Necessary, Mitsuko corrected mildly. The Kaneko clan has served as intermediaries between the divine and human realms for generations. When the Uzumaki were scattered, my ancestors preserved some of their knowledge. Naruto studied the Shrine Maiden with newfound interest. You can help us locate these rifts. Track what comes through them. I can do more than that, Mitsuko replied with quiet confidence. I can help you understand what you've become. The Fire Temple archives contain scrolls describing the original spirit of vengeance and its fragmentation. Kakashi exchanged glances with Shikamaru, then nodded decisively. Mitsuko will join your investigation team, Naruto. Her knowledge could prove invaluable. If she's legitimate, Alejandra interjected. Amber eyes narrowed with suspicion. Mitsuko met the Ghost Rider's gaze without flinching. Test me however you wish. The truth reveals itself to those who serve justice. Before Alejandra could respond, Naruto stepped forward, instinctively mediating. We need all the help we can get. If Mitsuko knows something about these rifts or the spirit of vengeance, we should listen. Kakashi nodded in agreement. Naruto, take Alejandra and Mitsuko to investigate the Hot Springs Rift. Sakura will stabilize the injured and return them to the village. Shikamaru and DI will coordinate village defenses in case more of these emissaries appear. As the groups separated, Naruto found himself in the uncomfortable position of walking between 2 women whose tension was palpable. Alejandra radiated suspicion like heat from a furnace, while Mitsuko maintained serene composure that somehow managed to seem equally confrontational. So, he began awkwardly, you're from the Fire Temple. For the past 5 years, Mitsuko confirmed. Before that, I trained at various shrines throughout the Land of Fire. My family has served as cosmic censors for generations. Convenient timing, Alejandra observed. Showing up right after Naruto's transformation becomes public knowledge. Mitsuko smiled faintly. I arrived in Konoha 3 days ago, actually. I felt the cosmic disturbance when the first rift appeared. She glanced at Naruto. Though I didn't realize the cause until your rather dramatic revelation yesterday. You can sense these energies that specifically? Naruto asked, curiosity overcoming awkwardness. Different energies have different flavors, Mitsuko explained. Chakra feels like water, flowing, adaptable. Cosmic energy is more like fire, primal, transformative. Her violet eyes fixed on him with unsettling directness. What burns within you now is both familiar and utterly unique. A perfect balance of chaos and justice. Alejandra snorted. Poetic. Accurate. Mitsuko countered calmly. The spirit of vengeance isn't merely a supernatural entity. It's a fundamental force, judgment incarnate. Without it, cosmic balance falters. That's why the dimensional barriers are weakening, Naruto realized. Because the spirit was fragmented across different realities. Mitsuko nodded. Precisely. The original texts describe the SP. Spirit as the binding chain of justice that maintains separation between realms. When it was shattered, the chains began to break. Alejandra finished reluctantly, her suspicion tempered slightly. By the shrine maiden's evident knowledge. They reached the hot springs area to find it evacuated, steam rising eerily from abandoned baths. Unlike the forest rift, this dimensional tear hovered above the largest pool, reflecting distorted images of another world, gleaming metal structures, vehicles unlike anything in the shinobi nations, crowds of strangely dressed people. My world, Alejandra confirmed, studying the images with complex emotions crossing her face. Mexico City, specifically. Naruto approached the edge of the pool, feeling heat that had nothing to do with the natural hot springs. The rift pulsed with potent energy, responding to his proximity with visible intensification. It recognizes you, Mitsuko observed. The fragments calling to one another. Can you close it? Naruto asked Alejandra. She shook her head. Not permanently. In my world, I could temporarily seal smaller rifts, but they always reopened eventually. The spirit must be restored for the barriers to heal completely, Mitsuko stated, removing a small bundle of papers from within her robes. But we can stabilize this tear for now. She knelt beside the pool, arranging the papers, Ofuda seals. Naruto recognized, in a precise pattern around the water's edge. Each bore calligraphy that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Ancient Uzumaki sealing script, Mitsuko explained, noting his interest. Designed specifically for cosmic containment. Where did you learn that? Alejandra demanded, suspicion flaring anew. From scrolls preserved by my clan, Mitsuko replied without breaking her concentration. The Uzumaki shared some of their knowledge with trusted allies before their fall. She completed the circle of seals, then formed a series of hand signs Naruto had never encountered, more complex than standard ninjutsu, fingers weaving patterns that seemed to bend light around them. Divine boundary technique. Cosmic seal, she intoned, pressing her palms against two master seals positioned at opposite sides of the pool. The Ofuda ignited with blue-white chakra, lines of energy connecting them beneath the water's surface to form a complex matrix. The dimensional rift shuddered, then contracted slightly as the sealing energy surrounded it. That should hold temporarily, Mitsuko stated, standing gracefully despite the evident chakra expenditure. But only for a few days at most. Impressive, Naruto acknowledged sincerely. Suspicious, Alejandra countered under her breath. Mitsuko regarded the Ghost Rider with calm assessment. You doubt my intentions. I doubt convenient coincidences, Alejandra replied. You appear with extensive knowledge about a cosmic entity that was supposedly hidden for generations, right when Naruto awakens to his power. The Fire Temple has monitored cosmic disturbances for centuries, Mitsuko explained patiently. When the barriers began weakening months ago, I was dispatched to investigate. Your arrival in Naruto's awakening merely accelerated events already in motion. Months ago, Naruto interrupted, focusing on the detail that seemed most significant. These rifts have been forming for months. Mitsuko nodded. Small ones at first, barely detectable. They've been growing progressively larger and more numerous. She hesitated, then added, there's a pattern to their formation. They're concentrating around locations with historical connections to the Uzumaki clan. Why didn't the Fire Temple report this to Konoha? Naruto asked. We did, Mitsuko replied. 3 reports were sent to the Hokage's office over the past 6 months. Kakashi never mentioned. Naruto began, then stopped as realization struck. The elders. They intercepted the reports. Most likely, Mitsuko agreed. The relationship between spiritual authorities and ninja villages has always been complicated. Information is filtered, controlled. Alejandra's expression remained skeptical, but her posture had relaxed marginally. So what exactly does your Fire Temple want with Naruto and the spirit of vengeance? Balance, Mitsuko answered simply. The restoration of cosmic order. When the spirit was fragmented, ripples spread through all dimensions. Those ripples are becoming waves. Before Alejandra could respond, the seals surrounding the hot spring flared with sudden intensity. The dimensional rift expanded sharply, straining against the mystical barriers Mitsuko had established. Something's forcing its way through, Naruto warned, sensing malevolent pressure building within the tier. The 3 moved instinctively into defensive positions as the rift bulged outward. Unlike the emissary's elegant emergence, this breach was violent, reality tearing open like flesh under a blade. The creature. That emerged bore little resemblance to humanity. 8 feet of sinewy muscle covered in chitinous plates, limbs too numerous and wrongly jointed, a face that seemed composed of random features assembled without pattern or purpose. It dragged itself fully into their world with horrible determination, ichor dripping from its misaligned maw. "Hunter," Alejandra hissed, chain unwinding into her grasp. "Not one of Mephisto's, something worse. Cosmic parasite," Mitsuko identified, producing paper talismans from within her robes. "It feeds on divine energy." The creature's mismatched eyes fixed on Naruto with terrible hunger. "FFF fragment," it gurgled through malformed vocal structures. "Tasti fragment." Naruto's transformation ignited without conscious thought, flesh giving way to bone. ND cosmic fire as the spirit of vengeance emerged in full glory. 9 chains of white gold flame extended from his back, writhing with anticipation. "Not fragment," his voice thundered with ancient authority. "Source." The creature hesitated, asymmetrical features contracting in what might have been confusion. Then it lunged forward with shocking speed, multiple limbs propelling it across the intervening space. Alejandra's transformation completed seconds after Naruto's, her Ghost Rider form interposing itself between the creature and its target. Her hellfire chain lashed outward, wrapping around one of the thing's primary limbs and burning with supernatural flame. The parasite shrieked, a sound like metal tearing, but continued its advance, dragging Alejandra forward rather than slowing its charge. "The core," Mitsuko shouted, flinging several talismans that attached to the creature's body, flaring with purifying light. "Central mass, beneath the plating." Naruto understood immediately, directing 3 of his flaming chains to strike the area Mitsuko had indicated. The white gold fire pierced the creature's armored exterior, sinking into the pulpy mass beneath with righteous fury. "Your judgment is at hand," Naruto intoned, cosmic awareness revealing the creature's nature and history in an instant. Countless worlds visited, divine entities consumed, a trail of cosmic destruction across dimensions. The parasite convulsed as Naruto's power reached its core, supernatural flames burning away corruption accumulated over millennia. It thrashed violently, nearly throwing Alejandra across the clearing before she anshelled herself with practiced skill. "Cleanse it," Mitsuko called, forming complex hand signs that caused her talismans to pulse with increasing brightness. "It's too corrupt to save. But the souls it's devoured can be released." Alejandra understood immediately, her chain ignited with intensified hellfire as she implemented her version of the penance stalk. Not through eyes as tradition dictated, but through the burning links connected to the creature's limb. "Face your sins," she growled, orange-red flames racing along the chain and into the parasite's body. The combined assault, Naruto's divine judgment, Alejandra's hellfire, and Mitsuko's purification talismans, proved overwhelming. The creature's body began to fracture, cracks appearing in its armored plates as light poured from within. It released a final, terrible wail before collapsing inward, imploding into a singularity of pure energy that dispersed harmlessly into the atmosphere. Where it had stood, dozens of luminous spheres hovered momentarily, the released souls of its victims, before rising skyward and fading from view. Naruto and Alejandra reverted to human form simultaneously, the transformation receding like tide from shore. Mitsuko lowered her hands, talismans consumed completely by the purification energy they had channeled. That, Naruto observed, breathing heavily despite his supernatural stamina, was not one of Mephisto's agents. Far worse, Alejandra agreed grimly. A cosmic parasite that evolved to hunt divine entities. "They're rare in my world, but dangerous. It sensed your awakening," Mitsuko explained, approaching the now stabilized rift to inspect her seals. "The spirit's energy acts as a beacon to such creatures, especially now that it's active after so long dormant." Naruto noticed something as Mitsuko knelt to reinforce her sealing array, a small, perfectly circular burn mark on the back of her neck, partially visible beneath her collar. The scar bore an unmistakable spiral pattern at its center. "Your Uzumaki," he realized aloud. Mitsuko stilled, then sighed softly. Distantly, "My grandmother was from a branch family that left Uzushiogakure before its destruction." She turned to face him, violet eyes, a shade remarkably similar to his own mother's, holding his gaze steadily. "The Kaneko name was adopted for protection when the survivors scattered. That's why you know so much about the seals," Alejandra concluded, suspicion finally giving way to understanding. Why you can sense the cosmic disturbances? Mitsuko nodded. The talent runs strongest in Uzumaki bloodlines, though few remain who know its purpose. She hesitated, then added, I didn't reveal my heritage immediately because such knowledge can be dangerous. Even now, decades after Uzushiogeku's fall, those with Uzumaki blood are sometimes targeted. By whom? Naruto demanded, protective instinct flaring. Various interests, Mitsuko replied vaguely. Nations who feared the Uzumaki's sealing abilities. Organizations seeking to exploit those same abilities. Entities who remember the clan's cosmic purpose. The implications settled heavily over Naruto. His mother's people had been guardians of a cosmic secret, custodians of the original spirit of vengeance. Their destruction might have been motivated by more than mere fear of their sealing prowess. We need to discuss this somewhere more secure, he decided, glancing at the temporarily contained rift. And prepare for more incursions. As they departed the hot springs area, Mitsuko fell into step beside him. Her formal composure softened by shared heritage. There are others, she said quietly. Scattered throughout the nations. Most don't know their lineage or purpose, but they exist. The Uzumaki blood survives, as do their enemies, apparently, Alejandra noted, walking on Naruto's other side. Naruto absorbed this information, feeling the weight of legacy settling along. Sighed his newfound cosmic responsibilities. The spirit of vengeance stirred within him, neither separate nor fully integrated, a presence ancient yet familiar, like remembering something long forgotten. We need to learn everything we can about the original spirit, he stated as they approached the village. About why it was fragmented, and what it means to restore it. The Fire Temple archives contain some answers, Mitsuko offered. Ancient scrolls preserved from Uzushiogeku's fall. And I know someone in my world who might help, Alejandra added reluctantly. A mystical librarian with knowledge of the Ghost Rider's true origins. Accessing him will be complicated. Nothing worth doing is ever simple, Naruto replied with a shadow of his trademark grin. Besides, complicated is kind of my specialty. As they re-entered Konoha, citizens paused in their activities to observe their passage, no longer with fear, but with a curious mixture of awe and uncertainty. Word of the conference. Rontation at the hot springs had already spread through the village grapevine, growing more elaborate with each retelling. Mitsuko noted the reactions with perceptive eyes. They look to you for reassurance, she observed. Your village values symbols. They've had practice adapting to the impossible, Naruto replied, acknowledging greetings with casual waves that belied the cosmic power he now contained. Giant fox attacks, invasions, resurrection of the dead, flaming skulls are just the latest entry on a very long list. Your world is surprisingly resilient, Alejandra commented. Mine ends to forget supernatural crises as quickly as possible. Collective denial is a powerful force. Shinobi can't afford denial, Naruto explained. Our entire society is built around accepting and harnessing the extraordinary. They reached the Hokage Tower to find Kakashi waiting outside, his customary lazy demeanor belied by the tension evident in his stance. We have a situation, the sixth Hokage stated without preamble. Another rift has opened, larger than any previously detected. And something has already come through. Mephisto? Alejandra asked sharply. Kakashi shook his head. According to eyewitnesses, it's a woman. Red hair, chains of chakra, claiming to be Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto froze, the name hitting him like a physical blow. My mother. Impossible, Mitsuko interjected. Kushina Uzumaki died sealing the Nine Tails. As did my father, Naruto said softly. Yet I've met them both. Chakra echoes preserved within their seals. He turned to Kakashi. Where? Training Ground 44. The Forest of Death. Kakashi's visible eye conveyed concern beneath his professional detachment. Naruto, this could be a trap. An entity using your mother's appearance to manipulate you. Or it could be a variant. Alejandra suggested, drawing their attention. My world has something called the multiverse, infinite dimensions with different versions of the same people. If barriers between worlds are weakening. A Kushina from another reality, Naruto breathed, hope and skepticism warring within him. We should proceed with caution, Mitsuko advised. Even if it is a variant of your mother. Her presence here violates cosmic law. There could be consequences. Naruto nodded, forcing emotion beneath rationality with effort. I need to see her. But I won't go in blind. I've dispatched Anbu to secure the perimeter, Kakashi informed them. Shikamaru is coordinating with Intelligence Division to analyze the energy signatures. Whatever this is, we'll face it prepared. As they organized their approach, Naruto felt the spirit of vengeance stir within him, not with hostility but with recognition. Whatever awaited him in the forest of death, it resonate with the cosmic force he now embodied. Another fragment calls, the spirit whispered through his consciousness, voice like distant thunder. The chains seek to reunite. Naruto gazed toward the ominous forest beyond the village walls, where someone, with his mother's face awaited. The hunt for fragments of vengeance had taken an unexpected turn, one that threatened to test not only his newfound powers but the emotional fortitude he'd built over a lifetime of loss and discovery. I'm ready, he stated, resolve hardening within him like cooling steel. The others recognized the transformation, not physical but spiritual, as Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails and vessel of the true spirit of vengeance, prepared to confront a ghost from across dimensions. The chains of fate continued to intertwine across worlds, drawing together fragments of a cosmic power older than memory itself. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, The Second Rider. Forests carried memories. This truth showed through Naruto as he stood at the perimeter of Training Ground 44, the infamous Forest of Death. Ancient trees towered overhead, their canopies blocking sunlight, creating a perpetual twilight beneath gnarled branches. The forest had witnessed countless trials, battles, and transformations, including his own first encounter with Orochimaru during the Chunin exams so many years ago. Now it witnessed something unprecedented. A meeting between a son and the mother he had never truly known, separated not merely by death but by the boundaries of reality itself. The dimensional signature is unlike the others, Mitsuko reported, violet eyes focused on energy patterns invisible to normal perception. More stable, almost as if it was created deliberately, Alejandra finished, her chain responding to her unease by shifting subtly around her waist. Anbu operatives maintained a perimeter 50 meters into the forest, masked faces turned toward the anomaly at the center. Ire tension was palpable even at a distance. She hasn't moved from the clearing, Kakashi informed them, appearing silently beside Naruto. Just waiting, asking for you by name. Naruto nodded, emotions carefully contained beneath years of hard-earned discipline. Any aggressive actions? None. When the Anbu approached, she created a barrier of chakra chains but made no offensive moves. Akashi's visible eye conveyed carefully measured concern. She certainly possesses Kushina's abilities. That doesn't mean she is Kushina, Mitsuko cautioned. Entities capable of crossing dimensions often mimic familiar forms. I'll know, Naruto stated with quiet certainty, the nine tails stirring within him at the mention of his former host. He stepped forward, only to feel Alejandra's hand close around his wrist. Her amber eyes met his with surprising intensity. Remember what you are now, she said quietly. The spirit of vengeance sees beyond physical forms. Trust its judgment as well as your heart. The gesture, unexpectedly personal from the normally guarded Ghost Rider, carried weight beyond its simplicity. Naruto nodded acknowledgement, feeling the cosmic entity within him respond to her wisdom. I'll go first, he decided, alone. The spirit will protect me if necessary. We'll be 30 seconds behind you, Kakashi countered, not making it a question. Naruto nodded acceptance of the compromise, then turned toward the forest depths. The path before him seemed to darken with each step, ancient trees closing ranks around him like silent sentinels. The forest's ambient sounds, insects, birds, small animals, faded to unnatural silence as he approached the clearing where the dimensional visitor waited. He sensed her before he saw her, a familiar yet different chakra signature that resonated with his own in ways he couldn't fully articulate. Then, as he stepped through the final curtain of foliage, he saw her. Kushina Uzumaki stood in a pool of unnatural sunlight, that penetrated the forest canopy directly above her. Her crimson hair, the famous, red-hot habanero, locks, cascaded down her back, stirring slightly in a breeze that touched nothing else in the clearing. She wore an outfit similar to the one he remembered from his brief encounter with her chakra echo during the war, a high-collared, sleeveless white blouse beneath a long green dress, though this version bore battle scars and subtle armoring that suggested a life of continued combat rather than maternal sacrifice. When she turned toward him, the differences became more apparent. This Kushina was older than the mother he had briefly known, perhaps in her early 40s, with fine lines at the corners of eyes that had witnessed decades rather than a truncated young life. A thin scar ran from her left temple to jawline, silver white against fair skin. Most strikingly, her eyes, the same shape and violet hue as his mother's, occasionally flickered with inner fire reminiscent of the spirit of vengeance. Naruto, she breathed, voice exactly as he remembered yet waited with years his mother had never experienced. He remained at the clearing's edge, emotionally paralyzed by the conflict. Impulses surging through him, to run to her, to turn away, to demand answers, to offer acceptance. "You're not her," he finally managed, voice steadier than he felt. "Not my mother." A sad smile touched her lips. "No, and yes." She took a single step forward, then stopped as she registered his tension. "In my world, you died the night the Nine Tails attacked. Minato and I survived." The revelation hit him with physical force. "Then you're a Kushina who lived," she confirmed. "A Kushina who lost her son instead of her life." Naruto's mind reeled, processing implications that branch in too many directions simultaneously. "How did you find me? Why now?" "The barriers between worlds are weakening," Kushina explained, unconsciously echoing information Naruto had recently learned. "I've been sensing things, seeing glimpses of other realities." She gestured to her eyes, which briefly flashed with supernatural fire. "The power I contained showed me where to go." "The spirit of vengeance," Naruto whispered, feeling his own cosmic awareness responding to her presence. Kushina's eyes widened slightly. "You know about it. In this world too." She laughed softly, the sound ingly familiar despite coming from a stranger's throat. "Of course you do. You're my son. After all, even across dimensions, some things remain constant." The clearing's shadows deepened as clouds obscured the sun above. In that momentary darkness, Naruto saw something else superimposed over Kushina's form, a flaming skull wreathed in chains of burning chakra, less complete than his own transformate ion but unmistakably a manifestation of the spirit of vengeance. "You're a rider," he realized aloud. "Like Alejandra." "I don't know that name," Kushina replied, "but yes. In my world, they call me the Chain Rider." Her expression darkened. "It wasn't a gift freely given. After we lost you, things changed. Minato and I both sought power to ensure nothing like that night would ever happen again. He went one direction, I went another." "Dad is alive in your world too?" Naruto asked, the concept almost too vast to comprehend. "Alive," Kushina confirmed with complex emotions crossing her features. "But not the man I married. Power changes people, Naruto. Remember that." The clearing's perimeter rustled as Kakashi, Alejandra, and Mitsuko arrived, maintaining a respectful distance while positioning themselves strategically. Kushina's gaze swept over them, assessing with a warrior's practiced eye before settling on Alejandra with particular interest. "Another rider," she noted. "From yet another world. The walls between realities must be thinner than I thought." Alejandra stepped forward, chain unwinding slightly from her waist in unconscious preparation. "You carry a fragment of the spirit of vengeance. Not from my world, your flames burn differently." "Perceptive," Kushina acknowledged. "In my dimension, the power came from a being that called itself Zarathos. She offered vengeance against those responsible for." She glanced at Naruto, pain flashing across her features, "for what happened that night." "Zarathos," Mitsuko repeated, recognition evident in her tone. "The ancient texts mention that name. A powerful entity, but not the original spirit. A fragment," Naruto concluded. "Like Mephisto's corrupted version in Alejandra's world." Kushina's attention shifted to Mitsuko, eyes narrowing slightly. "You have Uzumaki blood. Distant, but present." The shrine maiden bowed respectfully. "Yes, Kushina-sama. My grandmother escaped Uzushiogakur's fall. In my world, Uzushiogakure never fell," Kushina stated, a hint of pride entering her voice. "After the Nine Tails attack, I returned to my ancestral home. Rebuilt it. Discovered its true purpose as guardian of dimensional boundaries." Her gaze returned to Naruto, intensity building. But something has changed. The barriers weaken in all worlds simultaneously. Ancient entities stir, and the fragments of the spirit call to one another across dimensions. Her eyes flashed with inner fire again. Including whatever fragment you contain, my son. Not a fragment, Alejandra corrected. The source. Kushina stilled, comprehension dawning across her features. The original spirit of vengeance. The first flame. She laughed suddenly, the sound caught between wonder and irony. Of course it would choose you. Even across realities, you always were destined for something extraordinary. The moment of connection was shattered by a pulse of malevolent energy that rippled through the clearing like a physical wave. Naruto and Kushina reacted simultaneously, both sensing the dimensional distortion before it became visible. Something's coming through, Kushina warned, chakra chains manifesting around her arms in defensive formation. Something that followed me. The air at the clearing's center tore open, not the controlled portal that had apparently delivered Kushina, but a jagged wound in reality that bled crimson energy. The temperature dropped precipitously, frost forming on vegetation despite the summer heat. Whatever it is, it's big, Alejandra observed, her own transformation beginning as hellfire crawled across her skin. Mitsuko produced a handful of Ofuda seals from within her robes, eyes narrowed in concentration. Not just big, ancient. I recognize this energy signature from the Fire Temple records. The dimensional tear widened further, ice forming around its edges as a massive form began to emerge, first a clawed hand large enough to encircle a human torso. Then a scaled arm corded with muscles that had never evolved on their world. Akuma Oni, Kushina identified grimly, her body beginning its own transformation. Flesh gave way to fire as the chain Eider emerged, a flaming skull surrounded by writhing tendrils of crimson hair that moved with serpentine purpose, chakra chains extending from her back and arms in deadly formation. Demon Lord from the frozen hells. It's been hunting me across dimensions. The creature that pulled itself into their reality stood over 12 feet tall, its body a nightmarish fusion of reptilian and insectoid features. Scales the color of bruised flesh covered a humanoid torso, while its lower body comprised multiple jointed legs ending in wickedly curved talons. 6 arms extended from its shoulders, each bearing different weapons of black ice. Most terrifying was its face. Vaguely human features stretched across an elongated skull, mouth filled with needle-like teeth arranged in concentric circles. Uzumaki, it rumbled, voice like grinding glaciers. Thief of flames, breaker of barriers. Naruto's transformation completed in response to the demonic presence. The spirit of vengeance emerged in its full glory, flaming skull wreathed in ancient symbols, 9 chains of white gold fire extending from his back, robes of midnight and crimson flowing around his transformed body. You trespass across dimensions, Akuma Oni, he thundered. Cosmic awareness identifying the creature's nature and history instantly. Your judgment awaits. The Demon Lord surveyed the 3 transformed beings before it, Naruto's original spirit of vengeance, Kushina's Chain Rider, and Alejandra's Ghost Rider, with calculating malice evident despite its alien features. 3 fragments of the flame, it hissed with terrible pleasure. When I devour you all, my power will transcend dimensions. It attacked with shocking speed, all 6 arms striking simultaneously in different patterns. Ice weapons whistled through the air toward vital points, each trailing freezing energy that crystallized the very atmosphere. Kushina's chakra chains intercepted 2 of the attacks, her experience with the power evident in the precision of her defense. Alejandra's hellfire chain whirled in a defensive pattern, melting the ice weapons directed at her. Naruto simply moved, faster than thought, his transformed body flowing like living flame between the deadly strikes. Mortal defenses against immortal power, the demon mocked, its body already regenerating new weapons to replace those destroyed. Futile. Kakashi, recognizing GA battle beyond conventional shinobi capabilities, signaled the Anbu to fall back and establish a wider perimeter. Evacuate any civilians within a kilometer radius, he ordered, Sharingan exposed T.O. better track the supernatural combatants' movements, and request additional barrier teams. Mitsuko approached the Hokage, Ofuda seals glowing with gathering power in her hands. I can establish a containment barrier to prevent collateral damage, but I'll need time. Do it, Kakashi authorized. We'll provide whatever support you need. The Demon Lord focused its primary attack on Naruto, instinctively recognizing the greatest threat. 3 ice blades struck simultaneously from different angles, each capable of freezing a soul into eternal torment. Naruto caught all 3 with his flaming chains. Supernatural fire meeting demonic ice in a hissing confrontation of opposing forces. Steam filled the clearing as elemental powers clashed. The Uzumaki bloodline still serves the flame, Naruto intoned, voice resonating with ancient knowledge. As it was in the beginning. Kushina flanked the demon, her chain rider form moving with the fluid grace of an experienced warrior. Chakra chains lashed the creature's joints, burning where they touched scaled flesh. In my world, I've hunted your kind for decades, she growled, voice distorted by her flaming skull yet carrying unmistakable maternal fury. You made a mistake following me here. Alejandra completed their triangular formation, her hellfire chain superheated to temperatures that caused the very air to shimmer around it. 3 fragments, 1 purpose. She called, implementing attack patterns that suggested extensive experience battling supernatural entities. Judgment comes for you, demon. The Akuma Oni roared in. Rage and pain as 3 different manifestations of the spirit of vengeance attacked in concert. Ice weapons shattered against chains of cosmic fire. Scaled flesh blackened and burned where supernatural flames touched it. Yet still the creature fought with the resilience of an entity that had survived millennia across multiple dimensions. Your flames are divided, it snarled, frost forming around. Its maw as it gathered power for a counterattack. Weakened by fragmentation. I have devoured riders before. The temperature plummeted further as the demon unleashed its primary attack, a wave of a B-solute cold that extinguished normal fire and froze living tissue instantly. The clearing's vegetation crystallized, shattering into frozen shards as the deadly wave expanded outward. All 3 riders responded differently to the existential threat. Alejandra encased herself in a cocoon of hellfire, elemental heat barely maintaining equilibrium against the demonic cold. Kushina's chakra chains formed a rotating defensive sphere around her transformed body, each link blazing with intensified flame. Naruto, housing the original spirit, met the attack directly. His 9 chains of white gold fire spread outward to form a barrier. Cosmic power recognizing its ancient enemy and responding with appropriate force. Your kind was judged and found wanting before time was measured, he proclaimed. The spirit's knowledge flowing through him. The original flame cast you from the higher realms for your transgressions. The demon's attack faltered against Naruto's defense, cosmic fire burning Hero demonic ice with inexorable purpose. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the Akuma Ona's alien features. Impossible, it hissed. The true flame was shattered. Divided across realities. Yet it remembers. Naruto replied, advancing steadily as the demon retreated. And so shall you. Beyond the immediate battle, Mitsuko had completed a complex array of Ofuda seals at cardinal points around the clearing. With precise hand signs and focused chakra, she activated the containment barrier, a translucent dome of spiritual energy that encased the entire confrontation, protecting the surrounding forest from supernatural devastation. Inside this mystical arena, the battle intensified. Kushina and Alejandra had recovered from the demon's freezing assault and now attacked in coordinated patterns that suggested instinctive understanding between riders across dimensions. Its core is protected, Kushina called, chains targeting vulnerable joints where scale plates met. Beneath the central thorax, Alejandra responded without hesitation, her hellfire chain superheating as she launched herself into an acrobatic attack pattern. I'll create an opening. The demon, recognizing their strategy, focused multiple ice weapons on Alejandra's approach. 2 struck home, freezing portions of her supernatural form and temporarily disrupting her hellfire. She faltered mid-attack, vulnerable for a crucial moment. Kushina moved without hesitation, maternal protective instinct transcending dimensional boundaries. The chain rider intercepted attacks meant for Alejandra, Taken. A devastating blow from a weapon of black ice that penetrated her flaming form and struck something essential within. Kushina. Naruto's voice broke through the spirit's ancient intonations, Perso. Null horror overwhelming cosmic detachment. The variant of his mother staggered but remained standing, flames flickering around the wound yet refusing to extinguish. I've endured worse, she growled, determination overriding pain. Finish it, Naruto. while we have it distracted. The Akuma Oni, sensing advantage, pressed its attack against the wounded rider. Ice formed around Kushina's chains, reaping toward her transformed body as the demon's power sought to extinguish her flames permanently. Naruto felt something shift within him, the spirit of vengeance responding not to cosmic imperative but to personal connection. White gold fire intensified around his skeletal form, chains moving with newfound purpose as he launched himself directly at the demon lord. "You will not take her from me again," he thundered, voice blending human emotion with divine judgment. The demon attempted to defend against this frontal assault, but Naruto moved with impossible speed, faster than thought, than light, than time itself. His primary chain pierced the creature's defenses precisely where Kushina had indicated, burning through scales and chitin to reach the protected core beneath. "Look into my eyes and know your sins," Naruto commanded, implementing the spirit's most terrible power, the penance stare, amplified by the original flame's full authority. The Akuma Oni convulsed as millennia of atrocities were reflected back upon it, every soul tormented, every innocent corrupted, every dimension blighted by its presence. Unlike lesser demons that might find perverse pleasure in such a review, the cosmic weight of true judgment crushed its consciousness beneath immeasurable guilt. "Mercy," it finally croaked, voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. "There is no mercy for one who has shown none," Naruto replied. Cosmic fire intensifying within the creature's core. "Only justice." The demon lord's form began to fracture from within, cracks appearing in its scaled hide as divine fire consumed its essence. With a final, terrible wail that echoed across dimensions, it shattered into countless frozen fragments that evaporated into nothingness before touching the ground. Where it had stood, a small crystalline object remained, a shard of black ice no larger than a human palm, pulsing with malevolent energy. Its heart, Kushina identified, her transformation receding as the immediate threat ended. She stumbled slightly, human form showing a vicious wound across her torso where the ice weapon had struck. "Destroy it completely, or it will eventually reform." Naruto approached the demon heart, still in his transformed state. One flaming hand closed around the crystalline shard, cosmic fire intensifying until the object glowed white-hot, then dissolved into ash that scattered on supernatural winds. Only then did he allow his own transformation to fade, human features replacing the flaming skull with practiced ease. He turned immediately to Kushina, who had collapsed to one knee. Hand pressed against her wound. "You need medical attention," he stated, moving to support her. Kushina waved away his concern with characteristic stubbornness. "It will heal. The rider's power protects its vessel." Her violet eyes, now fully human again, studied his face with complex emotions. "You controlled the transformation perfectly. It took me years to achieve that level of integration with the spirit's power." "He houses the original," Alejandra reminded her, also returned to human form though her chain remained restlessly active around her waist. "Different rules apply." Mitsuko approached cautiously, the containment barrier dissolving now that the threat had ended. "Kushina-sama, if you'll permit me," she produced a special Ofuda seal from within her robes. "T.S. can accelerate healing for wounds caused by supernatural entities." Kushina assessed the shrine maiden with professional appraisal, then nodded permission. Mitsuko placed the seal directly over the wound, channeling chakra through ancient symbols that glowed briefly before sinking into damaged tissue. The effect was immediate. Frost receded, natural color returned to affected areas, and the wound began closing visibly. "Uzumaki sealing techniques adapted for healing," Kushina noted with approval. "Your grandmother taught you well." Kakashi approached as the immediate crisis subsided, Anbu. Operatives establishing a wider security perimeter around them. "We should return to the village," he suggested mildly. "This location is too exposed for extended conversation, and I suspect we have much to discuss." Kushina attempted to stand, grimacing slightly despite the accelerated healing. Without conscious thought, Naruto moved to support her, an unconsciously filial gesture that caused Ething vulnerable to flicker across the variant's features. "I can walk," she assured him, though she didn't immediately pull away from his assistance. "I know," Naruto replied simply. "But you don't have to." The journey back to Konoha passed in relative silence, each participant processing the implications of what had transpired. Kushina observed the village with evident curiosity as they approached. noting differences from her own version of the hidden leaf. The Hokage monument has different faces, she commented as the stone visages came into view. In my world, Minato is still the fourth. There was never a fifth or sixth. Quote, how did you prevent the Akatsuki threat? Kakashi asked, professional interest overriding personal discomfort at discussing alternate versions of their reality. There was no Akatsuki, Kushina replied. Without Naruto as Jinchuriki, events unfolded differently. Minato survived the Nine Tails attack and implemented extreme measures against potential threats. The organization you knew as Akatsuki was eliminated before it fully formed. Something in her tone suggested these extreme measures had come at significant cost, perhaps explaining her earlier comment about power changing the Minato she had known. They proceeded directly to the Hokage Tower, avoiding public areas where Kushina's presence might cause confusion or distress. In Kakashi's office, the variant of Naruto's mother finally allowed herself to sink into an offered chair, the strain of interdimensional travel and combat evident beneath her warrior's composure. You should know, she began without preamble, that I didn't come here by accident. I've been tracking rifts between dimensions for months, trying to understand why the barriers are weakening. As have we, Mitsuko confirmed. The Fire Temple has monitored increasing disturbances since the end of the Fourth Shinobi World War. Kushina's eyebrows rose slightly. You had a Fourth Shinobi World War. Interesting divergence. She refocused on the matter at hand. In my reality, the disturbances began after a cosmic event, a conjunction of planets and spiritual energies that occurs once every 1,000 years. Ancient Uzumaki records predicted it would temporarily weaken dimensional boundaries. But the weakening hasn't stopped, Alejandra observed. It's accelerating. Exactly, Kushina confirmed. Samet, Hing is deliberately exploiting the natural conjunction, using it to systematically dismantle the barriers between worlds. Her gaze shifted to Naruto. I believe it's connected to the spirit of vengeance, specifically to the original spirit that you now contain. Naruto absorbed this information with growing concern. The temple in Uzushiogakure showed us visions of the spirit being fragmented across dimensions. If someone's breaking down the barriers, they may be trying to access the original spirit, Kushina finished. Though whether to destroy it completely or harness its power remains unclear. Either outcome would be catastrophic, Mitsuko interjected. The spirit of vengeance isn't merely a supernatural entity, it's a fundamental force maintaining cosmic balance. If it were destroyed or corrupted completely, all dimensions would suffer, Alejandra concluded grimly. Kakashi, who had been listening intently, posed the question that followed logically, who would have both the knowledge and ability to manipulate dimensional barriers on this scale? In my world, only two possibilities exist, Kushina stated. Zarathos, who granted me the Chain Rider's power, or A. being known as Mephisto, though he's largely considered mythological even among supernatural circles. Mephisto is quite real in my dimension, Alejandra confirmed darkly. And powerful enough to attempt something like this. Or they could be working together, Naruto suggested, the spirit's knowledge informing his speculation. If they're both fragments of the same original entity, they might share common purpose despite apparent opposition. The discussion continued as day faded into evening, theories and information exchanged across dimensional boundaries as they attempted to piece Toge a cosmic puzzle with potentially apocalyptic consequences. Throughout, Naruto found himself repeatedly drawn to Kushina, studying features so familiar yet marked by decades of experiences his own mother had never lived to see. Eventually, practical considerations interrupted their strategic planning. Kushina-san needs rest, Sakura announced upon joining them and conducting a brief medical examination. Interdimensional travel coupled with combat against a demon lord would strain anyone's reserves, rider or not. I'm fine, Kushina insisted automatically, a response so characteristic that Naruto couldn't suppress a smile. You sound exactly like her, he observed quietly. My mother, I mean. The one I briefly met during the war. Something vulnerable flickered across Kushina's features. We're the same person at our core, I suppose. Just shaped by different circumstances. She hesitated, then added softly, in my world, I never got to see you grow up. Never knew what kind of man my son would become. The moment stretched between them, heavy with might have beens and parallel lives, before Kakashi tactfully interrupted. We've prepared accommodations in the diplomatic residence, he informed Kushina. Secure but comfortable. Anbu will maintain perimeter security, though I suspect you're more than capable of defending yourself. Thank you, Kushina acknowledged, sing with only a slight wince betraying her not fully healed wound. We should continue this discussion tomorrow. I have information about the Land of Iron that may be relevant to your investigation. The Land of Iron, Naruto repeated, recognition flaring. The samurai nation, Kushina nodded. In my world, it contains a nexus point where multiple dimensions intersect naturally. If similar cosmic geography exists here, it may be central to understanding what's happening. With arrangements made for the night, the group dispersed, Kushina to the diplomatic residence, Kakashi to coordinate with intelligence divisions, Mitsuko to review relevant scrolls from the Fire Temple archives she had brought with her. Naruto found himself walking through the evening streets with Alejandra beside him. Both lost in their own thoughts until the Ghost Rider broke their companionable silence. Meeting her must be strange for you, she observed. A mother you never really knew, yet not exactly her. Naruto nodded, emotions too complex for simple articulation. It's like seeing a ghost who doesn't know she's supposed to be dead. Who lived a whole life I can barely imagine. He glanced sideways at his companion. Did you ever encounter alternate versions of people you knew in your world? Once, Alejandra replied, uncharacteristically forthcoming. A variant of my mother who had never had children. Had never met my father. Her voice hardened slightly. She was happier. The simple statement contained volumes of personal history that Naruto recognized but didn't press. Instead, he offered what comfort he could through shared experience. The hardest part about meeting my parents' chakra echoes during the war was knowing they were temporary, he admitted. That I'd lose them again once their purpose was fulfilled. At least this Kushina is real, even if she's from another dimension. Don't get too attached, Alejandra cautioned, though her tone held concern rather than coldness. Interdimensional visitors can't remain indefinitely. Cosmic law eventually asserts itself. I know, Naruto acknowledged. But I can learn from her while she's here. About the Chain Rider's power, about other dimensions, about. He trailed off momentarily, about what might have been. They reached Naruto's apartment building, conversation pausing as both sensed an unfamiliar presence waiting in the shadows above. Not overtly hostile, but vigilant and purposeful. We have company, Alejandra noted quietly, chain subtly unwinding into a more combat-ready position. Naruto extended, his senses, not just shinobi perception but the cosmic awareness granted by the spirit of vengeance. Female, armed, not from this village, but not actively threatening either. They proceeded cautiously to his apartment door, which stood partially open despite the security seals Naruto distinctly remembered activating that morning. Inside, a single candle illuminated a figure seated cross-legged on his living room floor. The woman appeared to be in her late 20s, with pale skin that suggested minimal exposure to sunlight. Her hair, silver-white despite her apparent youth, was cropped short against her skull. Practical and severe, she wore fitted black clothing with multiple weapons visible in specially designed holsters, short swords, throwing knives, and what appeared to be specialized sealing tools. Most distinctive were her eyes, pale blue, almost colorless, with pupils that reflected candlelight like a predatory animal's. Uzumaki Naruto, she stated without rising, voice accent. Ted in a way neither Naruto nor Alejandra recognized. Spirit vessel, dimensional anomaly. Naruto remained in the doorway, alert but not immediately aggressive. You have me at a disadvantage. You know my name, but I don't know yours, or why you've broken into my apartment. Shizuka Vermilion, the woman replied, still making no move to stand. Hunter of abominations, tracker of dimensional infractions. Her colorless eyes shifted to Alejandra. Ghost Rider, Mephisto's corrupted flame, you're far from your assigned hunting grounds. Alejandra tensed visibly. I don't have assigned anything. And you're not from my world. No, Shizuka agreed. I exist between worlds, in the spaces other beings merely pass through. She finally rose in one fluid motion that spoke of extensive combat training. I've come because the barrier's thin. Because cosmic law bends toward breaking. Because entities beyond their designated dimensions threaten fundamental stability. Naruto exchanged glances with Alejandra before addressing the intruder directly. Are you here to help or hinder? Shizuka's expression remained impassive. I'm here to observe, to report, to eliminate if necessary. Her gaze fixed on Naruto with uncomfortable intensity. You house the original spirit. The true flame. This was not the design. What do you know about the spirit of vengeance? Naruto demanded. Patience. Wearing thin with the cryptic declarations. Everything and nothing, Shizuka replied, moving toward the window with preternatural grace. I serve the cosmic tribunal that first sanctioned its division. I uphold the separation of dimensions established at the dawn of consciousness. The what? Alejandra interrupted, skepticism evident. I've never heard of any cosmic tribunal, and I've been a writer for years. Your fragment is corrupted by Mephisto's influence, Shizuka stated without inflection. Knowledge was deliberately withheld. Her attention returned to Naruto. I will watch. I will evaluate. I will determine whether your awakening represents restoration or catastrophe. Before either could respond, Shizuka vaulted through the open window with impossible agility, disappearing into the gathering darkness outside. Naruto moved quickly to follow, but the strange woman had vanished completely. No chakra signature, no spiritual presence, nothing to indicate which direction she had taken. Well, Alejandra commented dryly, that was informative. And concerning, Naruto added, securing the window before turning back to his apartment. A cosmic tribunal that sanctioned the spirit's division. That contradicts what we learned in the Uzushiogakure temple. Not necessarily, Alejandra countered, settling onto Naruto's couch with casual familiarity. If this tribunal exists, they might have authorized the spirit's fragmentation, while Mephisto and others actually implemented it for their own purposes. Naruto considered this, the spirit of vengeance stirring in him at the mention of cosmic authorities. There's something familiar about her claim, he admitted. The spirit recognizes the concept of a tribunal, even if it doesn't fully accept their authority. And this Shizuka person, what's your read on her? Dangerous, Naruto assessed without hesitation. Highly trained, not exactly human, though I can't pinpoint how or why. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Another complication we didn't need. Or potential information we did need, Alejandra suggested pragmatically. If she knows about the spirit's division and serves whatever organization sanctioned it, she might provide context we're missing. If she doesn't decide we're a dimensional infraction, requiring elimination first, Naruto pointed out. Alejandra's lips quirked in a rare smile. She's welcome to try. The following morning brought new developments and complications. Reports arrived of additional dimensional rifts appearing throughout Fire Country, each slightly larger and more stable than previous manifestations. More concerning were accounts of entities emerging from these rifts, nothing as powerful as the demon lord they had faced, but troubling nonetheless. Kakashi convened an emergency meeting in the Hokage Tower, gathering key personnel to address the escalating situation. In addition to Naruto, Alejandra, Mitsuko, and Kushina, he had Sumo Ned Shikamaru for strategic analysis and Hinata Hyuga for her Byakugan's ability to perceive dimensional disturbances. 7 new rifts confirmed in the past 12 hours, Shikamaru reported, marking geolocations on a map spread across the conference table. Sakura is coordinating medical teams to handle injuries from encounters with interdimensional visitors. So far, casualties have been minimal. The pattern is deliberate, Kushina observed, studying the map with professional assessment. These aren't random tiers, they form a spiral configuration with Konoha at the center. Mitsuko nodded agreement. The Fire Temple archives describe similar patterns during previous dimensional events. It's consistent with someone systematically weakening specific points in the barrier between worlds. Someone who knows exactly what they're doing, Alejandra added grimly. Naruto described their encounter with Shizuka Vermilion, including her claims about a cosmic tribunal, and her self-proclaim med role as hunter of dimensional infractions. Another player in an already complicated game, Kakashi summarized, visible eye conveying concerned fatigue. And we don't know whose side she's on, if any. She's on the side of cosmic law as she understands it, Kushina stated with unexpected certainty. I've encountered her kind before, though not Shizuka specifically. They're interdimensional enforcers, beings that exist to maintain separation between realities. You speak as if there are many of them, Hinata observed quietly. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, Kushina confirmed. They serve Hat they call the Cosmic Tribunal, a council of ancient entities that established the original boundaries between dimensions. Naruto felt the spirit of vengeance stir within him at this information. Ancient memories surfacing like bubbles in deep water. The spirit remembers them, he said slowly, accessing knowledge that unfolded with each passing day. They weren't always enemies, but became adversaries when the spirit's judgment extended to beings they considered beyond mortal law. Which explains why they might have sanctioned its division, Alejandra concluded. Cut the spirit into fragments. Distribute those fragments across dimensions under the control of entities like Mephisto and Zarathos. And cosmic judgment becomes manageable, directed, controlled, Kushina finished. No longer a threat to powerful beings who prefer to operate without accountability. The implications settled heavily over the room, cosmic politics beyond human comprehension, with their world caught in the crossfire. This still doesn't explain why the barriers are weakening now, Shikamaru noted, ever focused on the practical problem before them. Or what we can do about it. I believe I can answer the first question. Mitsuko interjected, producing an ancient scroll from within her robes. This text from the Fire Temple archives describes a 1,000-year cycle during which dimensional barriers naturally thin. According to the timeline, we entered that cycle 3 months ago. Coinciding with the first appearance of rifts, Kakashi noted. Exactly, Mitsuko continued. But natural hinning wouldn't produce tears of the magnitude we're experiencing. Something, or someone, is exploiting the natural cycle to systematically dismantle the barriers. The Land of Iron, Naruto prompted, remembering Kushina's mention the previous evening. You said it contains a nexus point in your world. Kushina nodded. A location where dimensional barriers are naturally thinner. In my reality, the samurai have guarded this point for centuries, though few understand its true significance. She indicated a position on the map, in the mountainous region that housed the neutral samurai nation. If similar cosmic geography exists here, it would be the logical place to either reinforce the barriers, or destroy them completely. Then that's where we need to go, Naruto decided, the spirit of vengeance stirring in agreement within him. Before whoever's manipulating these rifts can exploit the nexus point. I've already dispatched a message to Mifune, the samurai general, Kakashi informed them. Requesting permission to send a small team to investigate. Given our history of cooperation during and after the war, I expect a positive response. How small a team? Naruto asked, mentally calculating combat capabilities against unknown threats. 5, Kakashi answered without hesitation. You, Alejandra, Kushina, and Mitsuko, plus one additional shinobi with specialized tracking abilities. He glanced toward Hinata, who nodded acceptance of the implicit assignment. When do we leave? Alejandra asked, practical as always. As soon as we receive Mifune's response, Kakashi replied. Hours, not days. The dimensional incursions are increasing exponentially. We don't have the luxury of extended preparation. As the meeting concluded and assignments were distributed, Naruto found himself momentarily alone with Kushina in a side corridor of the Hokage Tower. The variant of his mother studied him with an expression he couldn't quite interpret, something between pride and grief, recognition and unfamiliarity. You're very different from what I imagined, she said finally. From how I pictured my son might have grown up. Naruto hesitated, uncertain how to respond to this paradoxical statement. Different better or different worse? A genuine smile softened Kushina's features, momentarily erasing the battle-hardened edges of her appearance. Different stronger. Naruto never had the chance to grow beyond infancy. I've spent decades wondering what kind of man he might have become. Her violet eyes, so like the mother he briefly knew, held his gaze steadily. Now I know, and I couldn't be prouder. The simple declaration impacted Naruto with unexpected force, addressing a wound he had thought long healed, the child's need for parental approval, for confirmation that his choices and sacrifices would have made his parents proud. I met her, you know, he said quietly. My mother, your counterpart. During the war, when I was struggling to control Kurama's power. Her chakra had been sealed within me as a failsafe. He smiled at the memory. She was exactly as everyone described her. Fierce, loving, absolutely certain I would succeed. That sounds like me, Kushina acknowledged. A shadow of grief crossing her features. At least that version of me got to see you, even briefly. Got to tell you how much you were loved. She did, Naruto confirmed. It made all the difference. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an Anbu operative, bearing news that Mifune had granted permission for their expedition to the Land of Iron. The mission would commence immediately, with transportation arranged to the border. As preparations accelerated, Naruto found himself center of a gathering storm, cosmic forces converging around the spirit of vengeance he contained. Dimensional barriers weakening across realities, ancient entities moving with purposes he was only beginning to comprehend. Yet amid these vast, impersonal forces, personal connections provided unexpected anchoring points. Alejandra's growing trust, Mitsuko's ancestral knowledge, Hinata's steadfast support, and now Kushina, a mother who wasn't his mother, yet cared for him. With the same fundamental fierceness that transcended dimensional boundaries, the journey to the Land of Iron proceeded with urgency matched by caution. The team traveled in civilian disguise until reaching Fire Country's borders, then continued in shinobi formation through territories where diplomatic agreements permitted their passage. Throughout, they remained vigilant for further dimensional disturbances or potential pursuit. 3 days into their journey, as they traversed a mountain pass leading toward the Land of Iron's perpetually snow-covered terrain, Hinata's Byakugan detected movement ahead. Single figure, she reported, veins bulging around her pale eyes as she focused her bloodline ability. Moving in patterns inconsistent with normal human locomotion. Chakra signature, unusual. Unusual how? Naruto prompted, instantly alert. Fragmented, Hinata clarified, as if composed of multiple distinct energy types imperfectly fused. Kushina and Alejandra exchanged knowing glances. Dimensional hunter, they concluded simultaneously. Shizuka, Naruto wondered aloud. One way to find out, Alejandra replied pragmatically, increasing pace toward the detected presence rather than away from it. They found the silver-haired hunter perched on a boulder overlooking the mountain path, seemingly unbothered by the frigid wind that whipped around her. Her pale eyes tracked their approach without surprise, her expression remaining impassive as the team formed a semicircle before her position. Dimensional infractions multiply, Shizuka stated without preamble, moving from face to face before settling on Kushina. Another fragment crosses boundaries. The balance tilts further. We're trying to restore that balance, Naruto countered, stepping forward. His spirit of vengeance was wrongfully divided. Its fragmentation is what threatens dimensional stability. Shizuka's colorless eyes narrowed slightly. So you believe, so you were shown. She rose fluid motion, weapons clinking softly beneath her fitted black garments. The cosmic tribunal decreed separation for a purpose. The original flame threatened higher order. Higher order, Alejandra interjected skeptically, are higher beings who preferred to operate without judgment. For the first time, emotion flickered across Shizuka's features, a flash of uncertainty quickly suppressed. LD cosmic law is established by those with authority to determine it. And if that law itself is corrupt? Kushina challenged, the chain rider's power briefly manifesting as flickers of fire around her fingertips. If the spirit was divided not for balance but for control, Shizuka didn't immediately respond, her gaze shifting between the three vessels of the spirit's power with calculating assessment. Finally, she addressed Naruto directly. You seek the nexus point in Tetsu no Kuni, she stated, not a question but a confirmation. To reinforce barriers or accelerate their dissolution. To prevent whoever's manipulating the rifts from accessing it, Naruto replied honestly. We don't fully understand what's happening, but we know dimensional collapse threatens all worlds, not just ours. Something shifted in Shizuka's expression, not quite softening, but a subtle recalibration. Truth, she acknowledged. The tribunal dispatched me to investigate anomalous barrier deterioration. Standard protocol dictates elimination of unauthorized dimensional travelers. Her gaze flicked to Alejandra and Kushina, yet higher priorities may apply when systemic collapse threatens. Are you saying you'll help us? Hinata asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. I will observe, Shizuka clarified. I will report accurately to the tribunal. I will intervene only if cosmic law faces irreparable violation. Her pale eyes fixed on Naruto with unsettling directness. The spirit you contain predates the tribunal's authority yet operates within frameworks they established. This complicates matters. We don't need your help, Alejandra stated flatly. Just stay out of our way. Your corruption makes you predictably hostile, Shizuka observed without rancor. Mephisto's influence taints your judgment. Before Alejandra could respond with what promised to be creative profanity, Naruto intervened diplomatically. We welcome observation, he assured Shizuka. And hope reports to the tribunal will accurately reflect our intentions to restore balance, not disrupt it. Shizuka inclined her head slightly, the gesture neither agreement nor refusal. The nexus point is guarded by more than samurai. She informed them, offering information that implied a degree of cooperation despite her neutral stance. Cosmic locks established during the original sealing remain active, though weakened by recent disturbances. What kind of locks? Mitsuko asked, professional interest overriding caution. Seals that transcend physical manifestation, Shizuka explained. Barriers woven into reality itself. Keyed to specific bloodlines and cosmic signatures. Her gaze moved to Kushina and Mitsuko. Uzumaki blood may pass. Others will trigger defensive measures beyond conventional understanding. This information, freely given despite Shizuka's supposed neutrality, suggested the dimensional hunter might not be as impartial as her statements indicated. Naruto filed T.'s observation away for future consideration as they continued their journey, now with an additional companion who moved like shadow at the group's periphery. The Land of Iron welcomed them with chara. Ceteristic samurai formality, respectful but reserved, honoring their alliance during the Fourth Shinobi World War while maintaining careful neutrality in shinobi affairs. General Mifune himself received them in his austere headquarters. Weathered features revealing nothing of his thoughts as Naruto explained their mission in carefully edited terms. We've noticed the disturbances, the samurai leader acknowledged when Naruto finished. Strange atmospheric phenomena, reports of unusual creatures in the higher mountain regions, unexplained equipment failures near certain locations. His sharp eyes, which had witnessed decades of conflict and politics, studied each member of the team with professional assessment. But you believe these are dimensional rifts rather than conventional threats? Yes, Naruto confirmed simply. Connected to a location somewhere within your territory, a nexus point where the boundaries between dimensions are naturally thinner. Mifune's expression remained impassive, but something shifted in his posture, a subtle tension that confirmed he recognized the reference. The sanctum, he stated after a measured pause. A location our traditions have guarded for generations. Though few understand its true significance. You know of it? Kushina asked, surprise evident in her tone. I am Tetsu no Kuni's protector, Mifune replied with simple dignity. Its secrets are my burden. He rose from his seated position, moving to a wall bearing ancient weapons and artifacts. From among them, he retrieved a scroll case of obvious antiquity, its metal fittings tarnished with age. This was entrusted to the first samurai general by visitors not of our world, he explained, handling the case with evident reverence. To be opened only when the flames of judgment seek reunification. Those words have been passed from general to general for centuries, their meaning lost to time until now. The samurai leader presented the case to Naruto with formal ceremony. I believe this was meant for you, Uzumaki Naruto, or rather, for what you contain. Naruto accepted the artifact with appropriate solemnity, feeling the spirit of vengeance stir within him in Riko. Nishan of something familiar yet long forgotten. When his fingers touched the ancient metal, inscriptions previously invisible began to glow with supernatural fire, symbols similar to those that manifested during his transformation. The spirit recognizes this, he confirmed, carefully opening the case to reveal a scroll of material unlike any paper or parchment he had encountered, shimmering like metal yet flexible as silk. Covered in writing that shifted between multiple alphabets and symbolic systems as if refusing to be fixed in a single language. It's written in the cosmic tongue, Mitsuko breathed, leaning closer with scholarly fascination. The original language of creation itself. Can you read it? Hinata asked, her Byakugan activated to study the unusual chakra patterns emanating from the document. Not directly, Mitsuko admitted, but I recognize symbolic elements from the Fire Temple archives. I can read it, Naruto stated with quiet certainty, the spirit's nold. Ge flowing through him as he studied the shifting text. Or rather, the spirit can. He unrolled the document further, ancient knowledge translating into understanding without conscious effort on his part. It's a warning, he began. voice dropping to match the gravity of the message. And instructions, written by the spirit itself before its fragmentation, somehow knowing it would eventually seek reunification. What does it say? Alejandra prompted when he fell silent, absorbed in the cosmic text. Naruto looked up, eyes momentarily flickering with inner fire as the spirit's consciousness pushed closer to the surface. It says the cosmic tribunal betrayed their purpose. That they were created to maintain balance between dimensions, not to control judgment itself. When the spirit extant dead its authority to include the tribunal's own transgressions, they conspired with entities like Mephisto to fragment and contain its power. Confirming what we suspected, Kushina noted grimly. There's more, Naruto continued. Reading further, the nexus point here isn't natural, it's the location where the original fragmentation occurred. The spirit deliberately weakened itself at this spot, hiding a portion of its essence beyond the tribunal's reach, creating a failsafe. A failsafe for what? Hinata asked. Reunification, Naruto answered. Instructions for restoring the spirit of vengeance to its original form, bypassing the corruption introduced by Mephisto and others. He rolled the scroll carefully, returning it to its protective case. It also warns that those who implemented the fragmentation will sense any attempt at restoration and move to prevent it. Which explains the increasing rifts, Alejandra concluded. Mephisto and others like him sense the spirit awakening within you and are trying to stop the reunification before it completes. Mifune, who had listened to this exchange with admirable composure considering its cosmic implications, cleared his throat politely. The sanctum lies 3 days' journey into the northern mountains, he informed them. Accessible only by paths known to samurai guardians who maintain watch over the location. I will provide guides to lead you there. Thank you, Naruto acknowledged sincerely. But given the dangers involved, it might be better if your people maintain distance once we reach the location. What we face may be beyond conventional defenses. Quote, the samurai general inclined his head in understanding. My guardians will lead you to the outer perimeter, then withdraw to safe observation positions. However, he added with quiet authority, should you fail, we stand ready to implement contingency measures established by our ancestors. The implicit warning was clear, the samurai would not allow diamonds. Ional catastrophe to proceed unchallenged, regardless of their respect for Naruto and his companions. As arrangements were finalized for their expedition to the sanctum, Naruto found himself drawn to a balcony overlooking the snow-covered mountains surrounding the samurai stronghold. The frigid air burned his lungs, yet brought welcome clarity after the weight of cosmic revelations. He sensed Kushina's approach before she spoke. Her chakra signature, similar yet distinct from the mother he had briefly known, now familiar after days of travel together. Heavy burdens for someone so young, she observed, joining him at the stone railing. Naruto shrugged slightly. I've carried the 9 tails since birth. Cosmic responsibility feels like a natural progression at this point. A smile touched Kushina's lips. You joke about it. That's good. Maintaining humanity in the face of divine power is essential. Her expression sobered. In my world, Minato lost that balance. The power he sought after we lost you, it changed him. Hardened him beyond recognition. What happened? Naruto asked, curiosity overcoming potential tactlessness. He made deals with entities he shouldn't have trusted, Kushina replied. Ancient pain evident beneath her composed exterior. Became something between human and divine. A perfect Hokage who eliminated threats before they materialized, who sacrificed freedom for absolute security. She gazed out at the mountains, memories clearly playing behind her violet eyes. We separated decades ago. The man I loved disappeared into the being he became. I'm sorry, Naruto offered inadequately. Don't be, Kushina countered with surprising firmness. It taught me the most important lesson about power like we carry. It must serve humanity, not the reverse. She turned to face him directly. That's why the spirit chose you, I think. Because despite everything you've endured, you've never lost your fundamental compassion. Before Naruto could respond to this unexpectedly personal observation, Alejandra joined them on the balcony, chain clinking softly with her movements. Shizuka's gone, she reported without preamble. Disappeared during the meeting with Mifune. Hinata can't locate her anywhere within visual range. Reporting to her tribunal, most likely, Kushina assessed. The question is whether she'll return with reinforcements or continue her observation independently. We proceed either way, Naruto decided. According to the scroll, we have a limited window during this dimensional conjunction to access the sanctum's power. If we miss it, the opportunity won't come again for another 1,000 years. Assuming any of our dimensions survive that long, Alejandra added dryly. The rate of barrier deterioration suggests we have weeks at most before critical collapse begins. Their discussion was interrupted by Mitsuko's arrival, the Shrine Maiden's expression conveying urgency despite her customary composure. A Dimensio. Null Rift has opened within the samurai compound, she reported. Larger than any previously recorded. Something's coming through. They moved immediately, following Mitsuko through snow-covered court. Yards toward a disturbance visible even to normal perception, a tear in reality that shimmered with unnatural colors, expanding steadily until it towered 3 meters high at the center of the training grounds. Samurai had formed defensive positions around the phenomenon, steel blades infused with specialized chakra drawn and ready. Mifune himself stood at the forefront, ancient weapon in hand, Athered features set in resolute determination. The rift pulsed once, twice, then stabilized, not closing but not expanding further either. Through its translucent surface, a landscape became visible. A world of twisted architecture and perpetual twilight, where structures defied conventional physics and the sky burned with colors that had no names in human language. A figure approached from that alien landscape, humanoid but wrong in subtle ways that triggered instinctive unease. As it reached the boundary between dimensions, features became clearer, masculine in general outline, clothed in garments that shifted between formal robes and elaborate armor depending on the angle of observation. Its face remained obscured by a mask of reflective material that showed viewers their own features distorted by fear. Tribunal Arbiter, Shizuka's voice announced from somewhere above them. The dimensional hunter had reappeared, perched on a rooftop overlooking the confrontation. Enforcer of cosmic law, judge of dimensional infractions. The entity paused at the threshold between worlds, mask turning to survey those gathered with evident calculation. When it spoke, its voice seemed to bypass ears entirely, manifesting directly within their minds. Vessels of the fragmented flame, it acknowledged, attention fixing on Naruto, Kushina, and Alejandra with palpable intensity. Your convergence violates cosmic decree. The tribunal has ruled. Naruto stepped forward, the spirit of vengeance stirring within him in recognition of an ancient adversary. Your authority is disputed, he replied, voice carrying unexpected resonance as the spirit's power influenced his words. The original fragmentation was implemented through deception and conspiracy. We've found the spirit's own testimony. The arbiter's mask rippled slightly, the only indication of reaction to this challenge. Irrelevant. Cosmic law transcends individual grievance. The separation of the flame was necessary for multiversal stability. Necessary for maintaining your control, Alejandra countered, chain unwinding into her hand as hellfire flickered along its links. For ensuring no power existed that could hold the tribunal itself accountable. The Ghost Rider speaks with Mephisto's corruption, the arbiter dismissed. Your perspective is compromised by demonic influence. Kushina moved to stand beside Naruto, her own power manifesting as subtle flames around her fingertips. Then explain why dimensional barriers weaken now, millennia after the spirit's fragmentation. If separation was for stability, why does instability increase the longer the fragments remain divided? The arbiter's posture shifted subtly, suggesting discomfort with the direct question. Temporary fluctuations within acceptable parameters. The tribunal monitors and maintains dimensional integrity. Lies, Shizuka stated from her elevated position, drawing all eyes with the unexpected intervention. Barrier deterioration XCEEDS projected models by factors of thousands. The tribunal withholds critical information from its own enforcers. For the first time, the arbiter's composed presence faltered visibly. Hunter Shizuka Vermilion, your function is to implement tribunal directives, not question them. My function is to uphold cosmic law, Shizuka corrected, descending to ground level with inhuman grace. Avide. NCE suggests the tribunal itself violates the principles it claims to protect. The confrontation had shifted in ways no one had anticipated, the dimensional hunter apparently challenging her own authority structure based on observations made during her time with Naruto's group. Naruto sensed opportunity in the momentary confusion. We seek the sanctum not to destroy dimensional barriers but to restore proper function, he stated. Addressing not only the Arbiter but Shizuka as well. The Spirit's scroll confirms what we suspected. Balance requires reunification, not continued fragmentation. Dangerous misinformation, the Arbiter insisted, though its mental voice carried less certainty than before. The original flame threatened cosmic hierarchy with indiscriminate judgment. No, Naruto countered, the Spirit's knowledge flowing through him with increasing fluency. It threatened those who placed themselves above judgment. There's a difference. Before the Arbiter could respond, a new disturbance manifested, not from the rift it had emerged from, but from reality itself around them. The air shimmered with malevolent purpose as a familiar presence made itself known. Such tedious cosmic politics, a melodious voice observed from everywhere and nowhere, always debating while opportunities slip away. The temperature dropped sharply as a figure manifested beside the Arbiter's rift, elegant, perfectly proportioned. Clothed in an immaculate suit that seemed simultaneously modern and timeless. The emissary of Mephisto had returned, now accompanied by swirling shadows that occasionally revealed glimpses of teeth and eyes. You, Alejandra snarled, chain erupting in vengeful hellfire. Indeed, the emissary acknowledged with mock courtesy. My master sends his compliment. T.S., and his claim on what is rightfully his. The Arbiter turned toward this new arrival, mask rippling with evident displeasure. Mephisto's interference is unauthorized. Dimensional barriers remain under tribunal jurisdiction. How charmingly bureaucratic, the emissary replied with casual dismissal. My master recognized the opportunity you created with your little fragmentation project millennia ago. Did you really believe he wouldn't have contingency plans once the Spirit began reasserting itself? Understanding dawned across Naruto with terrible clarity. You've been working together, he realized aloud. The tribunal fragmented the Spirit, and Mephisto helped implement it, then spent millennia corrupting the fragments for his own purposes. Clever vessel, the emissary purred. Indeed, a mutually beneficial arrangement, until recently. Its perfect features arranged themselves in an approximation of regret. Unfortunately, my master has determined that complete cosmic collapse is preferable to the Spirit's reunification. So tedious, but there we are. The Arbiter's posture shifted from authoritative to alarmed. Explain yourself, emissary. The agreement specified controlled fragmentation, not dimensional destruction. Plans evolve, the emissary replied with elegant shrug. My master has concluded that if he cannot control the Spirit entirely, no one shall. The nexus point has been adjusted accordingly. The sanctum, Mitsuko gasped in realization. You've already reached it, not personally, the emissary clarified. But my master's agents have been working diligently while you all engaged in philosophical debates. It gestured toward the mountains visible beyond the samurai compound. The process has already begun. Rather than reunification, the F.A. Ill-safe now triggers accelerated collapse. Naruto felt the spirit of vengeance surge within him, responding to the existential threat with primal fury. His transformation began without conscious Scion. Flesh blackening and cracking as cosmic fire emerged from within. You betray your own existence, he thundered, the spirit speaking directly through his transformed form. All dimensions will suffer, including those where Mephisto holds power. A calculated risk, the emissary acknowledged, unperturbed by the divine manifestation before him. My master believes he can survive in the void between collapsed realities. Whether that's true remains to be seen, but he considers it preferable to submitting to your judgment. The confrontation had escalated beyond philosophical debate to immediate existential threat. Naruto, fully transformed into the spirit of vengeance's physical manifestation, turned toward his companions. The sanctum must be reached immediately, he proclaimed, Cosm. I see awareness calculating rapidly diminishing probabilities. The failsafe can still be properly activated if we move now. Kushina and Alejandra completed their own transformations in response, the C. Hain Rider and Ghost Rider standing ready beside the original spirit. Mitsuko produced specialized sealing scrolls from within her robes while Hinata activated her Byakugan to its maximum capacity. Most surprisingly, Shizuka moved to stand with them, specialized weapons drawn with clear intent. Cosmic law has been perverted, she stated flatly. The tribunal's deception invalidates its authority. The arbiter, faced with this unexpected defection, addressed its former enforcer with cold fury. Hunter Vermilion, your function is terminated, your existence forfeit. So be it, Shizuka replied without inflection. I serve truth, not bureaucracy. The emissary watched these developments with evident amusement. How theatrical. Unfortunately, you're already too late. It gestured again toward the distant mountains, where unnatural storm clouds had begun gathering around a specific peak. My master's adjustments to the nexus point are self-sustaining. You cannot reach the sanctum before critical threshold is achieved. Watch US. Naruto challenged, cosmic power gathering around his transformed form. With a gesture that transcended physical limitations, he tore reality itself, cr. Eating not merely a doorway between locations but a direct connection between dimensional points. Through this cosmic shortcut, the snow-covered plateau that housed the sanctum became visible, signify. Cantly closer than conventional travel would allow. Come, he commanded his companions. Judgment awaits us all. As they moved toward this supernatural passage, the emissary made no attempt to Santo. Them, confidence or arrogance suggesting Mephisto's sabotage was indeed beyond reversal. The arbiter, however, stepped forward in final warning. The tribunal will not recognize any outcome from these actions, it declared. Cosmic law remains absolute. Cosmic law demands justice, Shizuka countered as she followed the others. Even for those who wrote it. Together they stepped through Naruto's dimensional shortcut, leaving the emissary and arbiter behind as they transported directly to the mountain plateau where ancient forces gathered in anticipation of either restoration or final collapse. The sanctum awaited, and with it, the next chapter in the confrontation between fragmented vengeance and those who feared true judgment. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.